Gatekeeper's Chronicles. Story, Gatekeeper's Chronicles. Story link, https://www.fanfiction.net/s/9360508/1. Category, Doom. Genre, Sci-Fi/Fantasy. Author, lyuboiv. Author link, https://www.fanfiction.net/u/4766856. Last updated, June 5, 2013. Words, 50,345. Rating, T. Status, complete. Content, Chapter 15 to 28 of 28 chapters. Source, fanfiction.net. Summary: having just defeated one of Hell's most powerful generals, the Space Marine sits down to hear its dark story, a life riddled with terrifying secrets, merciless power struggles, intricate plots, deceit and treachery. This is the Doom universe experienced through the eyes of a demon. Chapter 15, Chapter 15. Chapter 15, Disruption. The body crushed into the wall and fell down, assuming a pose that implied that its bones were badly broken. The other Hell Knight looked at me with terror. He definitely didn't want to be thrown across the room like his brother had just been, and tried to utter something. I grinned once again and asked him, in a voice as calm as possible, about the reasons there were problems and delays with the invasion. He murmured something about human resistance forces, the Marine that caused so much trouble, and the fact that the coordination between our forces had been very bad lately. I told him, or, more precisely, shouted at him to bring my orders to the Legion commanders, tell them that my patience was running out and there would be very severe punishments. The Hell Knight bowed, trembling with fear, and threw a glimpse at the dead body of his brother that lay in the other side of the room. He went out as quickly as possible and I called the imps to clean up the mess. The invasion was not going well. And I was the one to take care of everything. Our armies had difficulties in the continents known as Asia and Europe. The humans had already prepared for our coming and resisted heavily. I ordered my troops to bring more cyberdemons and arachnotrons from Hell, now that you were not there anymore. I also had to coordinate the activities of our new and unexpected ally Euro. Strange as it was, there was a group of humans that allied with us. In the area call it a Euro. What was it? Germany. Yes, there, in an old castle hidden in the mountains, was a group of some strange, but undoubtedly very evil humans. They called themselves Nazis or SS. They wanted to join our ranks and we accepted. We even gave them a cyberdemon and some pinkies so that they can defend their hideout when the forces of humanity discover their betrayal. They kept some unknown relics in their bunkers. I couldn't see them, but they promised that they will show me what they have when Hell finally conquers the planet. Until then, the relics would be guarded by a cyberdemon Euro. My observation orb showed me that you were battling in some installations that we had taken over. Casualties were heavy and I frowned as my worries rose again. You had gained experience and were even more efficient in battling your forces. I dearly wanted to take care of you personally, but Baphomet's orders were strict and undeniable. I was to safeguard the city and the portal. And now an additional new order came in. There was a task for me somewhere on the planet. Baphomet's apparition was ethereal, but it was still obvious that he was infuriated. With a wicked grin, he ordered me to build inmost dens within the city and to return to Hell for a while and bring some void spheres to the earth. I shuddered. I knew very well what those spheres were and did, but I preferred not to think about them now. I ordered a contingent of Hell Knights and imps to construct the inmost dens according to the plans I had designed. Then I opened a gate to a small island lost somewhere in the molten seas of Hell. I enjoyed the feeling of being in Hell once more and inhaled the hot air with pleasure. Then I walked towards the entrance of a great temple, built of black marble and ornamented with crystal skulls. As I stepped inside, I felt that the air became very cold and humid. Braziers lined the hall I walked in. I stepped upon a thick dark red carpet ornamented with runes of power. As I reached a pair of heavy golden doors, they opened, revealing a large underground chamber, lit by hundreds of chandeliers. In that hall's center awaited another of my kind, a gatekeeper. He bowed and told me that he had been informed of my arrival and the spheres were prepared. I asked him whether he knew why void spheres would be necessary, and he replied that it was a part of Baphomet's great plan for the Earth and the conquest. I sighed. Great things were to happen soon. He told me that the time has come for me to take what I came for. You are curious, Marinia. For now, I will not tell you what the void spheres did. I will only tell you that humanity is very lucky because we could not use any of those artifacts of terrifying power. As we went down into the shadowy crypt, I saw many tomes that I had looked for in the libraries of the monster condo. The other gatekeeper told me that some special tomes were kept here in this forgotten temple, because Baphomet had ordered so. That was something I could not understand, but reminded myself that the demon lord's schemes were always hard to clearly see by us, his lesser servants. It was then that my brother whispered to me that there were some really special tomes that even Baphomet himself rarely dared to read. They were locked away in a place that I have been told. A sudden flashback struck me as I remembered my first years in hell. I remembered my journeys and a weird place that I had encountered. The Iron Tower. I once again promised that I will visit it again someday. I had a really bad feeling what I would discover there. A large underground hall appeared before us. There, in a pool of greenish liquid floated many sparkling spheres of hardly contained energy. I felt cold at the sight of the void spheres. My brother told me that I had to keep them very well and not touch them unless ordered by Baphomet himself. I agreed that such power was not to be toyed with and picked up as many spheres as I was ordered to. I felt relief as we climbed up into the main hall and looked at each other. The other gatekeeper told me that I had been doing very well and, undoubtedly, a great reward would await me after the invasion is over. I agreed and wished that he would one day be relieved of his duty of watching over this forgotten temple. I walked out and felt much better. The gate awaited me and the earth beyond it. Once back, I was ordered to hide the spheres in a place, which I considered safe enough. I immediately thought of the Temple of Darkness. Happy at the opportunity to visit it again, I quickly opened a gate to the place where I remembered it to be. Buried under the surface it could not be seen, but I had the power to enter it directly. I appeared in one of its dark abandoned halls. I felt very strange as I revisited this place. I walked down the quiet tunnels under the cloak of darkness. I reached one of the ritual chambers that could be locked magically. I hid the spheres there and sealed the door with its ancient lock. To improve security I also set a few curses and magical traps that would cause serious trouble to any who would attempt to enter that chamber. My work done, I headed back and passed through my former throne room and other halls that reminded me of the past days, days that were gone long ago. With the spheres safely hidden, I returned to my command post, only to receive some really bad news. The imp who brought them was rewarded with a sudden and unexpected contact with the room's wall. The marine who wreaked havoc better than a demon, had infiltrated an important facility that produced our healing substance, toxic slime mixed with blood. And you had infiltrated after moving through several other facilities, killing all demonic troops that awaited you there. 2 temples, overrun explosive storages, and a small fortress had fallen to your personal war against us. And you were battling your way further, moving closer to the headquarters of a spider mastermind. Another thing was that a small band of elite marines were active in one of the city streets, inflicting damage on our patrols. Luckily, I was given the honor to deal with them myself because all other troops were busy building fortifications around the city or fending off attacking troops from the country's army. Many city buildings were burning, streets were covered with debris and smoke erupted from the vents. I walked down among some ruined warehouses and small factories. I had put on a human image so that the Marines would not be able to quickly retaliate. Indeed, they were very puzzled at the sight of a figure in a black robe coming towards them. Their hesitation was short but fatal. When I raised my hands in a gesture of power, they realized that something was wrong. Too late. The earth beneath their feet exploded with terrible force and the Marines were consumed in fire. As the smoking remains were scattered all over the place, I took a look around. Everything seemed fine and I returned to my control room. There I saw that the inmost dens were complete and demons were already moving in that exceptionally useful multifunctional facility that served as living quarters, water supply, and training arena. I also learned that for that time, there were no human groups around the city and it finally was satisfyingly secured. The fortifications that I requested would be ready soon, and the whole place would turn into a real bastion of infernal power on Earth. Then came the nervous beeping of the communicational systems that alarmed me about your progress. And progress indeed there was a euro. You had almost reached the spider mastermind's lair and were now inside one of the transformed facilities a fuel factory that was changed into a place where bodies were crushed so that the blood could be extracted. Our troops needed plenty of food to carry out their duties. I was seriously convinced that you would defeat all demons in that facility too and would move on to the headquarters, where my hopes lay in the mastermind who was experienced in combat and could possibly do what the other spider had failed to do destroy you and put an end to the crisis. Chapter 16, Chapter 16. Chapter 16, Hatred. It was clear that sheer strength and overwhelming numbers of demonic minions were not enough to destroy you. So I decided to use cunning and deceit A gatekeeper should always have an emergency plan something I learned long ago at the volatile construction site of the unholy cathedral. It was hard to find a large group of demons that were not already engaged in the invasion. For this, I could only count on minions that are bound to me in a way that ensured strong loyalty. My thoughts turned towards my ancient servants the arachnotrons. They would answer my call, and I would be able to disguise the operation I planned as a necessary preventive assault. Yet, preventive assaults are not done without solid reasons. So I needed some humans who would appear at an appropriate place in the appropriate time. So the question was, how to make this happen without raising doubts in anyone Gatekeepers were not only masters of strategy and magic. We were also very skilled in the fields of illusion and deceit, with fear and hallucinations as our most dangerous weapons. And illusion was what I intended to use, just like I did with that unfortunate band of Marines I destroyed in the city. I called my servants as I would need them. I first told them to use some of the damaged human communication system, so that I can know how their images and sound appear. Careful observations provided me with the information I needed. Then I assembled my minions in the room and cast my spell of illusion my minions instantly gained the appearance of human marines some of them wounded, others carrying human weapons. I smiled and put on the appearance of a human major. I carefully adjusted my magical sphere so that it could simulate the image and sound properties of human communication facilities. Adding some interference to better hide the room I was in, I tried to make contact with the platoon that my scouts had spotted beyond the hills. Poor humans they immediately believed when they saw someone who introduced himself as Major Boyd. I told them that I knew of a safe passage through the demonic fortifications and my group together with theirs could reach the heart of the city and strike at the demonic overlord, that was me. They were so desperate that they quickly agreed, pushed by their hatred that was artificially boosted by me. They promised to come to a predetermined rendezvous point during the night. They did not even suggest for a moment that this might be a trap they just wanted to fight and die, and grasp the first easy opportunity they got. When my scouts detected the group of human troops heading east towards the city, I immediately sent a low-importance report to Baphomet's first lieutenant and stated that I will gather a group of arachnotrons and send them to exterminate the feeble mortals. As my plan was confirmed, I gathered all spider minions I could find and instructed them about their task ambush a human platoon that sneaks under the disguise of darkness. My servants immediately grew excited at the thought of slaughtering humans. They thanked me for the opportunity I gave them and set out to prepare for the task. I decided to spend the time before the critical moment putting things in order, at least make sure there will be no more surprises at all in my city. The industrial zone was an area that could provide me with valuable resources. I ordered the Barons of Hell in the area to dismantle some components of the metal melting facilities and construct an energy fusion core, a powerful demonic machine that could recharge demonic artifacts, black containers, megaspheres, and some blur orbs. I wanted to resupply all of my position inside the area. I also wanted to make sure I could use reinforcements if the need arises. The Nazi allies were exactly what I needed. And I need not ask them for any permissions. I built a secret gate that led right into their mountain castle. That gate was hidden in a recycling facility, yet easy to access by me if I needed to call upon them or lure someone into their hideout. Next, I ordered some of my Mancubi to assume positions in the suburbs. Another demonic army was ordered to stand ready and teleport in if trouble arises in the area. There I intended to set a nexus of dark power within a small building. I had not done that for a long time. I lost quite some time adjusting rune rings, enchanted skulls, telekinetic refractors, and scrolls of human skin that were covered with eldritch symbols. I assembled a composition that was to serve as a nexus, charging a crystal that was laid in the underhalls of my headquarters. Once the crystal was charged, I could expand the gate I had and summon some more reinforcements for my needs. I could also raise a force field, like the one at the starport, and completely seal that city. Yet, I needed time for the implementation of that plan. And I hoped you would be dead by then. As I left the Nexus under the care of selected servants, I visited the old citadel that was now turned into a comfortable fortification for our forces. The citadel needed reconstruction. It already had a demonic shrine added, and the keys for it hidden well. I wanted to have batteries and a facility for blood extracting installed, as the food needs of the demons that had infested the city, and became more and more, were steadily increasing. Batteries were intended for the roofs of many buildings, as I knew the humans would eventually find out that our forces are concentrated around this specific town. The magical defenses that I had raised were sufficient for the common human troops. It was elite marines that I expected to appear at some point. To provide better troop support, I ordered imps to seek out every single human corpse in the city and raise it as a former human. Specimens of higher quality would naturally be used for former commandos who proved to be very efficient against the shocked human soldiers. I was pleased to hear that the deceived human platoon that I expected was at position and the arachnotrons were hardly containing their bloodlust. I did not want to disappoint my minions. The order was given. Metallic feet clanged loudly, hydraulic devices moved swiftly, and energy emitters were charged. The Marines realized what was going on when they saw the spider-like shadows appearing from the shadows. They tried to lift their weapons. Yes, only tried as they reached for their firearms, a volley of plasma bolts fell upon them. Many of the troops were killed instantly. The others took cover among the rocks. They didn't take counteraction immediately, they were still shocked by the sudden ambush and the death of their comrades. The rhythmic sound of the metallic legs made the soldiers desperate. They hardly managed to stay in one place despite the orders that their commander shouted. One of them jumped up and shot. Seconds after that he was mowed down by hot bolts of plasma. The platoon commander made a desperate decision. He and the rest of the survivors jumped forth into the darkness and ran. And they managed to run away and hide among some trees, leaving 2 young privates behind. Shot dead by my minions. I watched the drama from my observation orb. My servants intended to chase the survivors and put an end to them, but I immediately ordered them to remain in place and patrol the area, in a radius of 500 meters. I smiled. The troops were in the place I wanted. The place where you would pass if you could approach the city. I had given my minions special instructions to expect you. I gave them a brief introduction of what they would be up against and some predictions derived from the analysis I did on your actions by now. I must admit that I was impressed by the careful and patient tactics that you employed. I regret to say that often you led demonic minions into fighting each other. That lack of self-control was something I strived to eradicate in my troops. I used mental manipulation, punishments, and rewards, yet demons always remained savage manifestations of chaos. I could only polish the small flaws and hope the others would not show up in critical moments. As I sat in my dark throne chamber, I thought about many things. About the past, about the recent events, and especially about your appearance, an element that no one could predict. And that element had already inflicted severe damage to our forces and threatened to ruin the great plan set in motion long ago. Then I started thinking about how it all started, a lonely marine who survived only because he remained behind to guard the landing pod of his combat group. Was it a deviation from the determined course, a mistake of fate? Was it something that just happened because the circumstances were such? Or was it destiny? Was it destiny? Chapter 17, Chapter 17. Chapter 17, Flashback. I sat completely alone in the dark hall. The only sound to disturb the brooding silence was the silent crackling of the candles that were lit in the corners. I sat in my throne, thinking. I had ordered no one to come in for any reason. I sat and thought for much time. I thought about you and the crisis that grew bigger as the minutes passed. My thoughts turned towards destiny, predetermination, and the roles of individuals in it. Did you have a special role? Did I have one? Or any of the denizens of hell? I tried to imagine that all I have ever done was predetermined and planned long before I was even created. Who could possibly possess the power to design destinies? I realized that I have never thought about the creation of hell, or the creation of its Lord Baphomet. How were all worlds brought into being? That question came before me suddenly. With it came the memory of my long-gone youth, a conversation that I had with an elder demon at the ancient construction site of the unholy cathedral. I saw it clearly, just as if I was there once again, young, scared and inexperienced. I talked with one of the elder warlocks, powerful demons that abide hidden catacombs, but came out for the construction of that great unholy temple. How do they look like? Ah yes, you have not seen them. Imagine a tall and mighty centaur with skin as red as freshly spilled blood. He tutored me for some time, helping me out as I first delved into the ways of demons. I admit I did not listen when I was young. It was now that the warlock's words struck me and I fully realized their value. 5 tall towers surrounded a central shrine that glowed with unnatural power. The unholy cathedral rose proud over the continent of Inferno. 3 of its towers and much of the central shrine stood as skeletons of beams and other elements. They were far from finished and there was much more work to do. The work was hard. The construction process involved the addition of careful adjustment of many magical elements. Those elements were highly volatile and sensitive. Each piece was set and attuned with greatest care by the teams of warlocks. Tomes filled with arcane runes, orbs containing unquiet souls, enchanted skulls and bones, flasks containing eldritch substances, or even whole windows imbued with magic were the elements that were installed with immaculate precision. They were set inside walls, under floors, in corners of rooms, on altars, or even floating in the air above specific points. All those pieces were ordered and aligned in such a way that they created a complicated network of arcane lines of magical currents. In a secret place in the cathedral, those lines formed a powerful focus that was to be used for purposes that were kept secret from everyone. There were also other, lesser focuses and nexus points that were to be used by warlocks and dark priests. I worked on a sacrificial chamber, slowly learning as I used powerful enchanted elements. That chamber was located in the northern tower of the cathedral. We began work on an empty platform under the hellish sky. When we finished, the room had a roof and walls already. It was an almost complete chamber for sacrifices. The only thing left was to bestow great power on the altar that was shaped and ornamented by me. Inside the stone, I magically set a clay mug that contained potent demonic relics. I finished my ritual and stood back in uneasy expectation. Then I felt refreshed and confident. A powerful flow of power flowed through the chamber and the ornamented antechambers that we had fashioned outside. That first success was the first moment of delight that I had in my life that became suddenly and passed into the hard work of the construction site. And the work was hard. Exhaustion and injuries of lesser demonic minions were problems we had to deal with constantly. and the overall productivity had to be kept high. There was also the fear of failures. Euro punishments were severe and equal for anyone. It was once after we had finished constructing the support pillars at a long hall with windows of stained glass that depicted bloody battles of demons and some creatures I could not recognize. The warlock and I sat in the cathedral's inner yard. The time was what you humans can identify as night, though in hell there were neither days nor nights. It was a short period when the light is dim and the air became cold, Euro phenomena that were common in the continent of Inferno. I was very exhausted and longed to have a few moments of rest. The warlock decided to talk to me about some things that back then I considered unimportant. He wanted to talk to me about the origins of our realm and the basics of a thing called fate. He began by asking me about what I had learned during the day. I took a deep breath and told him about my discovery of the principles of primal magic and its place in all other disciplines of the arcane arts. He grinned and told me that I was advancing very well, and then began his tale of the important concepts. It was unknown how the universe first began. It is unknown what or who created it. But it was known that the great demon lord, Baphomet, existed from nearly the very beginning. He existed together with other powerful entities that gathered together to lay down the plans of the world and determine the laws that would bind them. A small number of dimensions were set into the fabric of existence. Powerful artifacts that were long forgotten, yet told of in legends of 4 ancient runes of tremendous power. And the worlds, one of them was to be the neutral, middle world of the humans, where the influences of all extra-dimensional entities would clash and interfere. A netherworld was created, the realm where the souls of the dead would abide forever. Other dimensions and worlds were created, and order seemed to be brought into the raging void of existence. Yet then something went wrong, The great powers of magic bestowed upon humanity led to their corruption. Their world, that later came to be known as the Elder World, was blackened by an evil blight, and the great entities of existence decided to bring about a great change. An enormous world, larger than everything ever created before. That world was to possess highly limited resources of magic so that the corruption would be prevented forever. Humans and other species that were to be independent, as they were deemed less important for unknown reasons, would abide that universe, and the entities would not interfere with it. The Elder World and the several other original worlds were to be isolated from the fabric of existence forever. The mythical 4 ancient runes were to be locked away in those worlds and forgotten. The original worlds were to be guarded by ancient druidic deities. The warlock did not know the meaning of druidic, he used the word as he had learned it, who were charged to keep those worlds and their forsaken denizens forever locked, bound the rule of one chosen deity whose name is foreverless. It is known that one of the last survivors of the Elder World vowed that humanity would one day wreak its vengeance upon the dimensional entities that brought them their ruin. A man would arise to challenge fate itself and restore the balance in existence. With the death of all denizens of the Elder World, the Netherworld became a powerful focal point of arcane power, as it was overloaded with the countless souls of powerful sorcerers. Every human of the Elder World had been a sorcerer to some extent, and the many magic-wielding souls that dwelled in the original realm of the dead made it so powerful that from time to time it would tear the boundaries of the worlds and manifest itself in the mortal plane, in the form of ghosts, energy storms, humans that would gain magical power, or visions that haunted mortal minds. And indeed, dim legends are all that remains of the memory of those original worlds and the powerful artifacts that they hold sealed for all eternity. Those little problems were not noticed by the great entities, as they had a much greater matter to take care of. A feud had erupted among the entities that were once coordinated and united in their tasks. They separated into hostile factions, and each of those groups left to create their own worlds in the vastness of existence. Some of them created amazing worlds of magic and secret sciences. Others created worlds where intelligent species would develop uncontrolled so that one day they would interfere with other civilizations. Yet others went beyond the boundaries of dimensions and created their own domains there. Legends even speak of a great arena built by one of the factions, an arena created for entertainment and the pursuit of some secret purposes. Among all those deities, one set out to achieve his own goals alone. That entity was Baphomet. A manifestation of chaos among the other deities of order, Baphomet had always been strongly bent on what humans know as evil. He managed to collect all the corruption and hatred that were accumulated in the forsaken elder world and accumulate them into one powerful nexus that spawned a vast new world built of pure chaos, evil, shadows and uncontrolled arcane power, a hell. With his power, the great demon lord adjusted the flows of existence in a way that would always bring the evil and darkened souls of living, or undead, beings from all worlds and dimensions into hell and forever bind them there. Thus, Baphomet hoped to gather a grand army of chaos and endeavor on his ultimate task, the undoing of all creation. From the swirling powers of corruption and darkness, Baphomet spawned a race of fire and hatred, demons. Grotesque but powerful in both combat and spellcraft, this race soon populated the burning world of hell, busy with their primary tasks, breeding and the torture of the souls that were trapped in the hellish plains for all time. With the expansion of his domain and the plans of conquest at hand, Baphomet needed trust demons whose powers would be close to his own. Those lieutenants would be commanders and creators of passages into other worlds. Those demons would be the gatekeepers. Destiny was a complicated concept that dealt with the predetermination of many aspects of existence. It was not known when and where that was determined. It is not even certain whether there was such a plan of the course of time. Some ancient artifacts, such as the Spear of Destiny, were heard of. Their origins undoubtedly lied in the forsaken original worlds. Their presence in the new universe could only mean that many of the deities had broken the ancient agreements and had brought many artifacts from those worlds despite the danger that they could hold. And if destiny did exist, there was nothing anyone could do to change or stop it. Destiny was undeniable and everyone could only be a pawn in its omnipotent hands. After the talk, the warlock spoke to me about the responsibility that I would bear after my training was complete. Shortly afterwards he left me and went to work on the ritual summoning circles of the western tower of the unholy cathedral. I decided to spend some time by the river of blood that flowed by the construction site, looking over the mist-covered plains of Inferno. I did not care about what was spoken to me. I was still an inexperienced and somewhat scared demon that had no idea what his future will be. The memory faded away and I was once again alone in the dark hall. One memory echoed in my mind, the thought of the human that would rise to restore some kind of balance that only dimensional deities could comprehend. And then I pictured you. Could you, Marine, be that human that was destined to rise beyond the predetermined course of time and change it forever? A lonely individual that would change a plan set in motion millennia ago and bring about a new course that no one could predict. And what would follow in the future? Betterment for everyone? Or the destruction of everything that had been built for Ian Sayuro? Were you the chosen one? Could I stop you? And if you could not be stopped at what would be caused by you and what would the future be? I stood up and went out. I knew I had to do something, but what? Chapter 18, Chapter 18. Chapter 18, Charge. Our carefully built defenses were falling before you. My minions desperately tried to devise plans to stop one marine that single-handed defeated the demonic hordes. Essential resources were redirected because of you. I had to think of something to solve the problem, but even I had started to suspect whether it was decided already who would win. I had to strengthen the city's defenses at all costs, but I lacked the necessary number of workers to fulfill the plans that the Council of the 13 had laid down together. The pillaged warehouses of the city did not provide as much resources as we expected, and our troops at the starport could not reach the humans that were trapped there. To top it all, Baphomet decided that I should go back to Inferno and assess the damages. The brimstone-imbued air of hell always made me feel better. As I stood on a high plateau, I looked down upon Inferno. Ominous columns of smoke rose from the damaged buildings below. Above my head, hovering silently, was Deimos dead and forsaken. The Hell Keep, the Pandemonium, the House of Pain they were damaged, and demons went through holes in the walls, carrying heavily injured survivors that were to be questioned. Far in the distance, I beheld the smoking towers of the unholy cathedral. Pain and anger were boiling inside me as I watched the ruin of what I had built. I decided to go there and see closely, hoping that my incurred wrath may give me the strength to destroy you. The outer wall, ornamented with runes of destruction, was ruined. A large hole indicated the point you have used your rockets to penetrate the walls and enter the cathedral itself. I walked through several rooms. Their floors covered with the corpses of demons of several kinds. I walked in silence and witnessed ravaged reliquaries, devastated libraries, destroyed cursed oracles and other proofs that a fierce fight had taken place as the cathedral defenders strived to stop you. In the central yard, I stopped and examined the 5 towers. The top of one of them was missing. The others were relatively untouched, and I decided to visit the western tower. I went up, familiar places and images appearing before my eyes. I reached a room that was not damaged at all. It contained images on the walls and sculptures. I thought that I had never looked at them before. There were images of epic battles, many of which were unknown to me. Baphomet was on those images, crushing unknown races, conquering unknown worlds, claiming unknown artifacts of great power. Next came a gilded image of Baphomet performing a dark ritual, his arms high in the sky, with powerful bolts of arcane energy swirling and tearing the very fabric of reality. Below him were 13 little figures that were summoned into existence. Each of those figures had a runic sign on it. I looked at one of the figures, the one that possessed the rune, which I recognized to be my own name. The scene presented my birth. Other images of battles and rituals filled the dusty hall. I stopped for a moment when I saw the largest of those pictures on the walls, the one that depicted a panoramic view of hell in its full glory. In one of the picture's corners was a small dark building. A tower made of iron. The Iron Tower, the place of palpable fear that attracted me. I remembered that I had promised to visit it one day and uncover its secrets. I had seen maps of hell, and there the location of that tower was never given, as if it did not exist. One of the sculptures caught my attention. It was a small marble figure of the Temple of Darkness. I smiled. The dark priests and necromancers had noted an achievement of mine. I wanted to spend more time in that hall, but I had to check this. And I knew what I would see even before I went there. A few cyberdemons had gathered in Dis, looking at the ruined towers and the corpse of the master spider, my reincarnated ancient servant. I still could not believe that he, the one who was selected among many other faithful, had fallen before a desperate human that was not considered a good warrior by his brethren, who left him to guard the landing pod on Phobos. Ironically, that saved you, I am sure that you would have perished in the chaos that ensued when your brethren were suddenly ambushed in one of the tight corridors of the Phobos colony. I wondered if gatekeepers could travel into me, impossible, but if I only could do it. I would simply go back to the first moments of the invasion and blow up that landing pod while you were inside, or even while it was landing. The thought of this was so sweet that I found myself standing in one place and smiling, under the surprised looks of the cyberdemons. They were really angry after the loss of their warlord, and only the necessity for them to use their strength to work for the recovery of Inferno prevented them from going to Earth, where they undoubtedly would try to find you and tear you into pieces. I returned to Earth prepared for bad news. I was right. It took my servants some time to gather enough courage to tell me about your newest achievements. The group of facilities that we had conquered outside the city area had fallen. The spider that ruled one of our important headquarters was defeated in a terrible battle that left you heavily injured. My minions tried to find you while you were weakened and destroy you, but you had hidden somewhere. I could not use my observation orb to find you, as some recent uprisings of Marines forced my troops to deploy their potent warlock spells, and the areas to the west of the city were now charged with residual energies that interfered with my observation spell. Yet my scouts informed me that there were indications that you had found some Marine survivors, including the last members of the unfortunate platoon that was deceived by my Major Boyd incarnation. I was sure you, humans, were plotting together. The fall of the spider in the western hills had created much chaos among my troops. I had to appoint another spider to control the troops that were responsible for the city's defenses. I did not have time to organize the distribution of the forces, so I decided to send that mastermind to one of the industrial facilities near the starport, a factory that had some kind of enormous crusher. While he coordinated the efforts of the city defenders, I took personal command of the demonic forces within the city itself. Many of the facilities and devices that I had ordered to be built were almost ready. The defenses were particularly important now, as I was sure that you and your new friends would attempt something that would cause trouble but would also provide a good opportunity for me to destroy you. I could not order my minions to search for you and your fellows. I did not have enough troops, as most of Hell's army was currently focused on wiping out the last remnants of human resistance throughout the planet. Besides, I had decided to keep most of my servants within the city. I did not expect that you would take decisive actions against me soon. I should admit that I was mistaken, and I definitely did not expect what would happen. A sudden flash on one of the still functional monitors around me indicated that a fight had broken out somewhere within the vast fields to the west of the city. Surprised, I looked at the dim images of smoke and explosions. A battle? I quickly summoned and carefully adjusted 2 observation spheres. I did not like at all what I saw in them. You and an enormous group of Marines and civilians with weapons were charging towards the city, shouting and shooting dead some of my former humans that kept watch over the valleys. You and they looked like a formidable strike force, and I knew that I had to deal with you seriously, without underestimating for a second the humble abilities that you, humans, possessed. My strategy required that I knew perfectly where you were trying to go. I created a large magical scheme of the battlefield. A small red light indicated where your group of desperate human soldiers was. I looked more carefully and checked where your possible destination was. I gasped in surprise and terror. You were going straight to a point where my defenses were not completed, or more precisely not yet begun to be constructed. There was no way to stop you. I don't remember very well the following hour. I shouted orders at my servants. I connected with my troops on the battlefield and ordered them to move quickly and close the gap that was so blatantly allowed. My group of arachnotrons was near the place your group was, and I put my hopes into them. In a group fight you might as well fall and be removed from my path forever. 2 cyberdemons in the nearby hills were another option. If only they could assume position to launch their missiles in time. There are a few small groups of Hell Knights and Cacodemons, though I doubted they would be any good. I breathed deeply, trying to calm down and analyze the situation as best I could. Your group was quickly approaching from the west. Some of my troops could intercept you, coming from the south and the north. I had the opportunity for 2 attacks upon your group. I checked my map and felt relief when I saw that there were no other human forces in the area. I could not count the minutes. The shining points on the map were running for one determined point, as a bigger red light moved towards the outer facilities of Starport. The first fight broke out on time. A group of Hell Knights intercepted your group but only succeeded in killing a few. Your brethren were really inspired to fight. The arachnotrons assumed positions around the remains of some destroyed trees. Fire at will was what I told them before contacting my forces within the Starport. They reacted quickly and made sure the way to the Great Switch was blocked. Many facilities were shut down so that the maintenance tunnels and transport shafts were disabled. If one of the humans would reach the Starport, he would have to go through the whole complex, looking for the chamber of the switch. In the best case, none of you would reach the compound. I leaned back in my throne and prepared to watch the show. The first of your troops came out on the small hill. He looked around and decided that it was safe. He turned around to wave to the other Sayuro, but he never finished the move. Bolts of plasma erupted from many directions and he fell. The others quickly retreated, terrified by the stomp of metallic legs that drew closer. Most of them carried only pathetic pistols and weak one-barreled shotguns. Before they could decide what to do, my minions had climbed the hill and unleashed another volley of plasma that claimed another 4 victims. A rocket flew through the air but missed. It came from the back of the column. It was easy to assume that you were there. All humans took cover and gave back a few shots that merely scratched the armor of the spiders. I smiled. A the events had turned out in a way I liked. My troops slowly moved forward. I could hear the terrified voices of the hidden humans that trembled in fear as the sound of the deadly hydraulic mechanisms came closer. I could literally feel their fear. The feeling was the same as the feeling of a tasty meal, or a keg full of human blood after an exhausting battle, or standing quiet before the glorious falls of fire close to the unholy cathedral. The moment was so good that its interruption was rather unpleasant. Apparently, you had brought several rocket launchers and plasma guns with you. And your comrades had gathered many boxes of ammo and energy cells. Your retaliation destroyed one of Spider's. I shouted to my servants and demanded that they finish their work quickly and leave no one alive. Driven by a hellish frenzy, the arachnotrons moved forward, spraying deadly plasma in all directions. I guess you remember well, as all of you rose at once and opened fire with the chain guns and plasma rifles that you had been hiding until now. Smoke and flames hid the scene from my eyes as shots were fired in all directions. A few minutes later I saw what had happened. More than 2/3 of the human troops were dead and almost all of their equipment was destroyed. That made me happy. What spoiled my happiness was the fact that all arachnotrons were destroyed and you were still alive. In my anger, I grabbed the imp that stood near me and tore him into 2 pieces. The other servants looked terrified and did not say anything. Later that day, the human survivors finished burying their fallen comrades and moved further towards the starport. I had already overcome my wrath and prepared one final ambush for you. They never saw the 2 cyberdemons that were waiting in ambush among a few damaged cargo trucks. I was really enraged after my Spider's defeat and ordered the cyberdemons to purge the area when you appear. The rain of rockets was something you did not expect. Powerful explosions shook the ground. The cyberdemons unloaded their whole load of missiles and retreated back into the starport. The result of that violent attack was the picture of many crushed bodies that covered the burned ground. I laughed. The threat was finally destroyed and one man walked slowly towards one of the entrances of the starport. I recognized his uniform. Your uniform. I felt helpless. To my credit, I succeeded in vanquishing all of your troops, but you had survived the 2 violent attacks. Armed with a pistol and a damaged chainsaw, you sank into the shadows of the infested facility. All of my troops inside were alerted about the new situation. The human army that had attacked the breach in our security was defeated. The man who caused so much trouble was still alive and seeking to find the chamber of the switch and set his brethren free. I leaned back in my throne again. For the first time in so many years, I felt the need to have a break. Chapter 19, Chapter 19. Chapter 19, Chaos. You, human, know very well the bitter taste of failure and guilt. This is nothing compared to the weight of doubt. Doubt that comes when you wonder whether you have done what was right. I have felt that doubt, and you have felt it too. Yes, Marine, I know some things about your past and the fateful decision that you took several years ago. I saw the image in your mind. The image of those innocent people and your commander who ordered you to shoot at them. And then comes the moment of hesitation. Only one short moment before the quick decision and the quick action that follows it. All that was short and quick. But afterwards comes the doubt, long and heavy. It does not give you peace. It keeps drilling inside you, darkening your days and befouling your nights. I could not stop thinking whether I had done something wrong. Everything went well for millennia, and then a sudden turn of events that spawned chaos and crises. The big question that still hung was whether I could have done something about it. Or the relentless mechanism of destiny was slowly moving closer to its goal that had been determined in ages past, on worlds that no living creature has seen for countless eons. And what then? Surrender. Not an option for me. Go on and fight. Do I have the strength? What I had was a grim determination for vengeance and fulfilling the ultimate plan of conquest. Everything else was unimportant. An armed and dangerous human near the starport was undesirable, and I wanted to take care of it myself. But I could not. Baphomet had forbidden such interventions to be performed by the 13, and we were helpless. I often discussed different ways of destroying you with the other gatekeepers. All of them wanted to see you dead and bring the invasion to its victorious end. One of my brothers suggested that Baphomet had a plan that involved the usage of the void spheres. We all frowned on the mentioning of those artifacts. We hoped that we would not have to use those. The danger was great. No, human, the time has not yet come for me to tell you about those spheres. I can only tell you that we, gatekeepers, knew enough about them to be afraid. It was in that critical moment that my lord decided that I have had enough troubles with you. Baphomet gave me another assignment. I was to navigate Hell's actions around the unexpected allies that we found with those so-called Nazis in their secret castle in Europe. I had to go there, monitor them, and find what I can about the artifacts they were hiding in the bunker, guarded by the cyberdemon my lord generously gave them. They did much to express their heartfelt gratitude by pretending to offer help to human resistance groups before exterminating them with surprising attacks. They gladly helped us, even though none of the 13 could understand why they would do so. The important thing then was to benefit as much as possible from those fools. It was highly possible that they sought benefits too. Perhaps they knew that many of their great leaders were currently inhabitants of Hell. The scientists, Shabs and von Giftmacher, were morphed long ago into demonic entities that helped our armies with their talents. Rain was one of the things about your planet that demons hated most. That day there was much rain and it poured down upon me and my few chosen minions as we stepped out of the gate and emerged in front of an old castle, high in the mountains. Soldiers in blue uniforms opened the gates. They pretended to not be specifically impressed, but I could smell their fear as demons entered their hideout. The chamber we entered was heavily ornamented with flags, portraits, and various symbols. One picture caught my attention. It depicted something that seemed to be a mountain of eldritch fire. On its top stood a spear with a shining golden blade. The Spear of Destiny. A powerful artifact I knew very little about. Those humans seemed to revere it very much. The way they revered whatever they kept hidden in the bunker several levels below us. The castle's desolate west wing became my sanctum for my stay in this place. Truth be told, I was very frustrated to be stuck in this forsaken place, while you, the greatest of Hell's enemies, were loose near the starport that was encased in a force field created by me. Baphomet did not want any of his gatekeepers to lose control over their emotions. I guess he did what had to be done. Yet there was doubt in my abilities and confidence to carry on. I will not hide that among the 13 was a clandestine game of influence and power. I was starting to suspect that my luck in that game was abandoning me after the many years of success. I preferred to stay away from those humans and not bother with their petty problems and goals. They did a good job in producing weapons and ammo, as well as fighting against human resistance forces. And that was it. They had no idea of the great plans that were set in motion, they could not comprehend the point of everything that happened. The dark stony halls of the castle helped calm me down and concentrate. Those humans kept something hidden from me. I was sure. I clearly felt the presence of powerful artifacts throughout their headquarters. They kept things that they claimed were legacy from the paranormal division that existed during the war they led. They mentioned something about dealing with the undead and excavations in ancient crypts. That caught my attention. It seemed that my stay with them would be beneficial. If only I could get my hands on the artifacts that they possessed. Those people were bold. They played with forces they did not understand. Their experiments had brought them knowledge that mortals we not meant to have. In the scheme of all things, their place was not clear. It would be a pleasure for me to try to figure things out. One day I succeeded in getting one of their officers, titled Oberstürmer, to talk to me about those guys' secret research. He revealed that many years ago, in the days of the war, their paranormal division was involved with the undead, as they made excavations at a village. Excavations that revealed a large underground complex of catacombs and forgotten crypts. There they discovered many powerful artifacts, though they never understood the purpose of most of the items that they discovered. He added that the whole thing had been related to some long-dead very evil ancient ruler. I smiled. What he described sounded like the mission that one of my fellow gatekeepers was given centuries before. I knew that one of my brothers was to create a small army of the undead for experimental purposes. Those crypts and the artifacts inside could only be the remnants of his work. The Spear of Destiny seemed to be the most important piece of that puzzle. An artifact with great power over the undead, and an unexpected gateway to Hell's catacombs that used to be inhabited by the enigmatic Angel of Death. The demon keeper of the darkest of human souls. Those reckless humans experimented with the spear and ultimately channeled its power to create a small rift in the fabric of reality. I frowned. Rifts were similar to gates, yet unstable, unreliable, very hard to control, impossible to navigate and highly prone to explode. The worst thing was that you can never know where the rift would lead. It was also possible that a rift would open into alternative images of reality, showing events that would never happen. It was within Gatekeeper's power to open such portals, but none of us would do so. Through one such rift, the Nazis had managed to extract some artifacts after their team went through and was ambushed by nightmarish creatures. They found someone there and supposedly brought him back. The unstable nature of the rift manifested itself by creating 3 exact copies of what was found and killing all but one of the team. The 4 identical bodies of whomever was found were kept locked in the sanctum and worshipped by the foolish humans who witnessed the events of that day. I could barely contain my laughter. Those humans were actually keeping some dead bodies and saw them as something valuable. The Obersturmer probably felt what I thought and quickly added that those bodies were charged with mystical energy. What a surprise. You get something out of a rift and it is charged with chaotic energy. Those humans' ignorance was truly amazing. I was still wondering why Baphomet decided to spare them and count them as allies. They were useless. The thought that calmed was that once the Earth was conquered, those guys would be taken care of. That reminded me that one especially troublemaking Marine was still out there. Fighting through the infested starport that was near the city I ruled. I wanted to know what was going on there, even though Baphomet had ordered that I concentrate on other tasks. I contacted one of my loyal barons there and he informed me that the demonic troops were trying to trap you in the waste tunnels and destroy you, though you fought very well and the number of casualties was high. I told him to contact me if something unexpected happens and return to my work in the castle. The previous day, the blue uniformed soldiers had had a fight with a contingent of Marines who were aware of their betrayal. They lost a few troops, many more were injured. I and my minions had to care about the security of the castle. The perfect opportunity to learn more about their discoveries. I was exhausted after the events of the last few days, but I quickly felt refreshed after discovering a soul sphere in one secret stash. Consuming the sphere gave me strength and confidence. In the following days, I discovered many more stashes where old demonic artifacts were kept. Discoveries of the past days of research. Among them were some quite interesting items. I found a tome of Darkening. A book that was used to corrupt the souls of hapless humans and turn them into loyal disciples of the demon who used the tome. I had never used such disciples. Humans are always fragile and weak-minded, and I preferred to use Hell Knights. Later I found a chalice of hatred. A golden cup in which human blood is brewed and turned into a vile black substance that is used to increase the magical powers of barons of hell for a brief period of time. It is amazing how much destruction such barons are able to create. In one secret chamber was a demonic halo. A black circlet that enables demons to fly and attack their enemies with orbs of dark energy. I was pleased to discover an urn of gathering. A container designed to capture a soul that can later be used for something. In another chamber, among a few blur orbs, I found a small ornamented box that contained the ashes of oblivion. A vile substance in the form of grey powder that quickly dissolved the bodies of any living beings, turning flesh and bone into a highly corrosive liquid that emanates highly toxic vapors and can retain its potency for a very long time. I was happy that gatekeepers were immune to its effects. Those artifacts were valuable and I collected them all for my personal needs. I was sure the humans would not check their stashes soon. Besides, what right did they have to use the creations of hell like this? They had undoubtedly discovered all those items in the crypts they excavated many years before. Now they rightfully belonged to me. I was glad that my visit to that castle would provide me with benefits. Those few items were definitely more useful than all those human troops and their weird ideas. I wanted to return to the city and carry on with my normal duties. It was obvious that there was no need for me in the area, especially when there were problems at the starport. Problems that soon reminded me of their presence. The Baron of Hell sought contact with me urgently. When his face appeared in the magical orb, I already knew that you had caused something once again. I was right. The spider mastermind in the Crusher facility was defeated, the troops were not coordinated and you were going deep into the facility, probably aware of the location of the switch. The situation had deteriorated much and urgent action was necessary. A few hours later, an ethereal apparition of Baphomet appeared and ordered me to return to the city. Chapter 20, Chapter 20. Chapter XX, Ruin. My minions greeted me when I came out of the gate. The reports were not very clear, but it was apparent that the inner circle of the starport had been breached after you destroyed the small outpost guarded by a contingent of arachnotrons. Survivors that you met had told you about the approximate location of the switch. It was also obvious that the number of troops throughout the compound was not sufficient. None of the other gatekeepers could provide reinforcements for me. Baphomet had given strict orders that the troops' distribution remain as it was set before the invasion. We knew that our master was strongly devoted to the ancient laws and traditions and would not change what was decided. I was alone with my problem, exactly like you were alone against Hell and its legions. I had to use everything I could to stop you. I withdrew troops from vital points so that I could concentrate them in Yue. I remembered my old plan to lure you into the Nazis' castle, thinking that perhaps humans will be able to destroy you. That city was a vital part of the invasion plan and its security was a priority. I had the honor to be the bearer of that responsibility and I could not afford to fail my master. The situation made it necessary for the 13 to gather once again and come up with a solution. I greeted my brothers as they entered the dark hall and commented on its comforts. We sat around a table of black wood surrounded by burning braziers. The servants were ordered to walk away and not interrupt the meeting for any reason. Silence hung heavy over the table as none of us knew how to start. I looked at them and began the conversation by asking them about the conditions in their areas. They were quite happy, telling me that they had no problems with the last pathetic remnants of human resistance. How could they not be happy? They were not at all pressed by crises as I was. It was apparent that your destruction was the only thing that remained to be done before the Earth could be considered conquered and its transformation initiated. There were many things that had to be decided upon. Looking forward to the post-invasion period, we planned about the distribution of tasks among us, the redistributions of resources, the organization of the troops, the zombification of all surviving humans and, of course, the disturbing presence of void spheres in this world. The last issue bothered all of us, as we had no idea about Baphomet's reasons regarding the usage of those artifacts at that time. He would not tell us why he needed them, just as he never told us where he got those spheres from. As far as we knew, those artifacts were supposed to have been destroyed millennia before we were summoned into existence. Yet, our master had many of them hidden in that underground chamber that I visited. Knowing what could be done with such power, I could only guess what boundaries Baphomet was planning to cross. One of my brothers proposed that I order my troops to destroy the starport completely, blowing up the fuel tanks and the ammo reserves throughout the compound. The huge explosion that would result could be sufficient to destroy you and end the crisis for good. I really liked that idea, but I knew that the starport was necessary for the subsequent strikes at the remaining human outposts on the Moon and Mars. I proposed that we gather all troops in the area and send them to the area you were last spotted en masse. I thought that at least half of them would survive after the battle is over and you would finally be no more. One little thing made the scheme impossible. It was not acceptable to leave the city undefended because of one human marine that was harder to kill. Then I reminded my brothers of the ancient story of the destined revenge of humans upon the entities that have interfered with their lives. Silence. The other 12 remained quiet for a few minutes, thinking over my point. I had no doubt they were well familiar with the complicated concepts of destiny and the dark tales of the original worlds. Most of my brothers had serious doubt about the story. They were strongly convinced that humanity would never be able to do anything about its destiny, and that story is merely one of the legends about the fall of the Elder World. Those legends were meant to demonstrate the corruption of the last days of those realms and humans' liability to self-deceit and egotism. It was beyond doubt that the ancient human magi had long passed into oblivion, consumed by their own lust for power and studies of darkness and chaos. My brothers agreed that you were an extraordinary case and, therefore, had to be dealt with in an extraordinary way. The problem was that we did not have sufficient resources to take such special measures. The designs that we had created were to be discussed. Those were designs of fortresses, temples, and other infernal installation that would be built after the invasion would end. Those buildings' purpose was the channeling and focusing of infernal energies that would change the face of the planet forever. The fulfillment of our mission would bring us our eternal reward and more power than we had ever dreamed of. The fact that here was a tedious obstacle in the form of a stubborn human marine, standing before the achieving of that goal, infuriated us. It was also well known that the one who would solve the problem would receive Baphomet's special praise and the greatest of honor known to any demon. I could almost feel the smell of a competition among us. And each of us knew perfectly that there were no rules. I brought the topic of the reckless humans who insisted on being our allies. Those rather unpleasant fanatics proved to be minor asset in our army, and the artifacts they possessed were not of any special value. The convenient thing about the situation was the fact that there were plenty of demonic troops in the area. One order was needed for them to exterminate the Nazis and destroy their castle. Any remaining weapons and artifacts would be taken away for further use. My brothers agreed that my plan was good and proposed that I execute it as soon as possible. My evil grin was the confirmation of the proposal. I wanted to bring the issue of the recent security breach to the debate. I considered it unacceptable that a whole sector in the defenses was vulnerable and completely open to attack, thanks to the poor management of the spider masterminds. In my view, the solution would be for us to quickly. I stood up and looked at the others. Their looks told me that they had felt it too. A sudden shift in the flows of infernal energy could only mean that there was trouble somewhere close to the city. I hit one of the still functional buttons on the damaged control panel and one of the dirty monitors came to life. We saw the starport, thick clouds of smoke rising from the central buildings. Several explosions and plasma discharges were more than enough to tell the reason for that fight. Dimmed demonic figures were running in all directions under a rain of falling debris. I frowned at the thought of what would happen if the fires reached the fuel tanks. Neither I nor my minions could rebuild such a compound installation. A horde of cacodemons flew above the buildings without any coordination. I tried to order them to go down to the area of the switch and hunt you down. I tried. To my horror, I felt a sudden shift of energy followed by alarms and the grinding of machinery. A loud hissing was heard, and the force field that enveloped the starport began to dissipate before my eyes. I tried to stretch out my feelings and examine the area closely. It was exactly as I suspected. The chamber of the switch did not respond to my commands. Realizing the futility of any further defense of the starport, I recalled my troops, telling them to return within the city and wait there for further orders. It was now obvious that it would be within the town that the decisive battle would take place. With noisy bursts of the overloaded engines, the human spaceships rose from the ravaged spaceport and ascended towards space above the ruined planet. The trails of smoke in the sky were so many, and we, the 13, could only watch them with anger. Our anger did not matter in that moment. It was the wrath of Baphomet that we feared. Humanity, having fled from their planet, would be harder to track down and destroy. The possible delays in our mission were unacceptably large. A few minutes afterwards, an apparition of our Lord appeared beside us, an ethereal image that emanated anger and hatred. The 13 had failed, and we were to learn our fates. I will not tell you about what was shouted at us, and what heavy words of reprimand we received. It was the result of the shouting that mattered. The failure had enraged our master to the point where he decided to take personal control of the city and personally navigate the war effort, in order to crush the insolent mortal you. My brothers were ordered to retreat to minor demonic outposts and keep watch over them. I was given a different assignment. Perhaps my efforts in that city had succeeded in easing my master's wrath. I was to return to hell and manage the restoration of a few installations in Inferno. Baphomet had decided that the Pandemonium and the House of Pain would have to be the first installations to be rebuilt, as they were necessary in the situation of crisis. Though I was not sure whether I could look upon the ruins of my home once again, I had no choice. Baphomet took full control over the city. It was him who would try to hunt you down and put an end to the greatest obstacle of our invasion. My brothers went away to places I did not know. I was sent to one of the towers of the unholy cathedral, the one that was not damaged by your rampage through our temple. Through messengers and apparitions, I gave directions, advice, and encouragements to the demonic workers who made efforts to repair and reactivate the facilities. I made thorough plans for each of the teams of workers and sent them to them. I had to wait for many hours before any results could be achieved. I had nothing to do. My minions were working carefully according to the plans, and Baphomet could not observe me because he was entirely concentrated on the task of manipulating the whole city. I was alone and out of the reach of any external authority. The moment was perfect for me to do things I had planned but did not have time to do. As I sat in my throne, an image came to mind once again, a dark tower of iron, rising above the dead plains of bones. I had much time. No one would find out. I could go there, just as I promised Mijilfa. I would discover the secrets of that enigmatic place and sate my burning curiosity. I stood up and summoned a gate. Inside its burning frame, I beheld the forest of bone and the lone dark spire that rose in its center, emanating menace just as before. I hesitated for a moment, looking through the gate. Then I stepped through. Chapter 21, Chapter 21. Chapter XXI, Tower. The feeling of menace that emanated from that tower was stronger than anything I had ever encountered. I had no doubt that only Lord Baphomet could cast such powerful and intricate spell. Apparently with the purpose of protecting something of special value. As I tried to expand my senses, I felt that there were other spells interwoven within the very material that was used to build the edifice. A powerful spell of fortification had been cast, and it increased the strength and durability of the iron, to the point at which it was nearly indestructible. Other spells served as shields against any kinds of observation or teleport spells that an intruder might use. I thought that there may be quite a few traps within the structure, and I stretched out my feelings once again. I was right. If every single trap could be a small light, the tower would be lit like a burning tree. Traps, curses, and spells of confusion and weakening. The whole place was charged with deadly devices and spells that would destroy anyone who would enter it. I walked around the edifice, thinking. A common demon would be dead within minutes inside that cursed tower. I was far more powerful than most of Hell's denizens, yet I felt that the tower's top floors contained traps powerful enough to harm even a gatekeeper. It was those traps that worried me. I already had a plan about all the others. A combination of a few spells of warding that I knew, would allow me to enter the tower without being detected by either of the traps. A kind of useful invisibility. I hoped that combination would be stable enough not to be disrupted under the influence of the powerful flows of arcane power that permeated the building. I concentrated so that I could shake the overwhelming feeling of menace from my mind and approached the heavy iron door. None of the numerous traps around it was activated, and I pushed it lightly. It slowly opened to reveal a short dark corridor. ******. I entered and closed the door behind me. It was perfectly quiet inside. And the air was completely still. The corridor's walls were ornamented with images of great battles I had never heard about. Creatures of many shapes and structures clashed upon weird-looking battlefields under stars and suns I had never seen. As I walked forward, I felt the magical flows of traps like slight touches upon my skin. My combination of spells worked perfectly and no one would know I was inside. The corridor ended in a small room with an altar in its center. Torches on the wooden walls gave the whole scene a ghastly atmosphere. There was nothing on the altar, the 5 black candles by its sides were not lit. I had decided not to touch anything inside and therefore I moved to the next chamber. I stood in an empty room with a huge image on the wall. It seemed to be a map. Concentric circles and triangles formed a sophisticated scheme that was covered with many signs and runes I did not recognize. I looked at it more carefully, looking for patterns that would tell me what that map was. I concentrated on the small circles of silver that were connected with variously colored lines. Those markings looked somewhat familiar. I tracked the connections and the configurations. I tried to imagine them to be dimensional gateways and energy channels. It made perfect sense. That was indeed a map of dimensions, and the most stable and convenient currents of power that could be used for opening gates. That map was a valuable asset for any gatekeeper, yet it was kept locked here, as if Baphomet was reluctant to give it to the 13 for some reason. A closer examination of the map gave me knowledge of the reason. Among all the silver dots that indicated worlds, were 5 golden circles that were arranged in the shape of a pentagon in one sector of the map. Those could only be the 4 original worlds, and some smaller 5th world that I knew nothing about. The pentagon of the Elder Worlds was surrounded by a line of arcane power that could only mean that all gateways to those worlds had been severed and sealed by an unknown force. I realized why Baphomet would not grant us the right to use that map. Even if he created a copy without the Elder Worlds, we, gatekeepers, would become suspicious of the strange gap that would exist in the universe. As I thought of that, I beheld a red circle among the worlds. Tracing the channels of energy, I found out that the red circle indicated hell. Beside the map were written, on a golden plaque, many gateway parameters and energy variables. It appeared that someone had tried to calculate the possible points of entry into the Elder Worlds, if the shield was down. I grinned. Baphomet could keep all this for only one reason: in his quest for ultimate chaos, he would attempt to claim the original worlds and use their power to crush the rest of the universe under his heel. The conquering of the Earth and the control of its unique energy patterns was the key to the deactivation of the shield. I was truly amazed by what I had found. Going back into the room with the altar, I saw a flight of stairs going to the upper floor of the tower. Still, I wanted to know the purpose of the altar before I would go further in my exploration. The strong pain that I felt when I touched it was enough to tell me of its nature. That altar could be used to amplify any spell that would be cast near. I realized that I did not feel the volatile power of the tower's traps anymore. The altar had enhanced the power of my spells when I touched it. I did not know how long the effect would hold and I decided to hurry. As I went up the stairs, I threw one last glance at the altar. I wished to possess such an artifact. The light of candles indicated that my ascent through the dark staircase had ended. My curiosity forced me to take a look around the floor before proceeding up. I already knew that Baphomet kept quite a few precious artifacts hidden within the tower. The second floor had an eerie atmosphere, as if the aura of menace outside had somehow managed to sneak into that floor. I had the sense that distant voices were calling to me. A feeling that was very familiar. As I entered the next few rooms, I already suspected what I would see. A library of souls in crystal containers. The ornamented shelves were covered with containers and their glimmering contents. I took a closer look on the specimens. Those were definitely human souls, but they possessed immense magical power. That is why they were able to reach out and speak to me. I was delighted. I had just met humans from the Elder Worlds. Baphomet had obviously decided he would need some of humanity's powerful magi, and kept their souls in his private soul library in the tower. There were many rooms with crystal containers. I did not have time to count how many souls were stashed on that floor. I had to move further, where, beyond any doubt, elder relics waited to be found. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. The next floor had walls of white marble that reflected the light of braziers. A unique feeling of stillness in the air told me what that floor actually was, a mausoleum. There were several sarcophagi in the rooms, their lids were transparent. Inside them, I saw the remains of human magi and of some creatures that I had never seen. Those remains emanated great power, and it was clear to me why Baphomet kept them in the tower. There was also the possibility that he knew them. I felt strange looking inside my master's past uninvited. I turned around and left the mausoleum. Inside it I felt even worse than outside, where the aura of fear was. I almost shouted with delight when I saw what the next floor was, a library. There were many tomes that I did not know and would like to read. There were enough materials to keep me occupied for years. Knowing that I only had little time, I decided to only look at one book, one of the few that I could decipher. A big book with bronze covers caught my attention, of Elder Domain and Eternal Secrets of Old. A tome about the Elder World, I could not resist the temptation. As I read the tome, I found out many things I did not know before. I also discovered that much of my older knowledge was not accurate. It was stated that after the original worlds were created, the deities retreated beyond the boundaries of the universe, yet retained contact with humanity, so that they could manipulate it. Humanity was left to live in a world the book depicted as Realm of Forefathers or Elder World. Humanity lived there, possessing moderate magic abilities, ruled by the disciples. The disciples were humans, chosen by the deities to be the medium between them and humanity. They were the true magi of great power. Their headquarters was an enormous azure palace, where they communed with the deities and received their orders. That palace stood in the center of a temple city, disciples-only territory that could only be entered through a stout guard tower, mentioned as the Fetid Tower of Despair. The palaces and administrative buildings of that temple city represented the full and relentless control over humanity and its fate. The elder world grew rich and powerful, but success inevitably brought with it decadence and darkening. The cities, palaces, and temples of that realm were depicted as monuments of true glory and human achievement, and it was highly possible that much of them remained intact and may be explored if that shield was down. There were other worlds as well. A world where the magic humans are best attuned for is concentrated, referred to as Realm of Earth Magic or Domain of the Doomed. That world was inhabited by very few chosen wizards, non-disciples. They were to safeguard the flows of human magical power and delve deep into the secrets of the mystic arts. A rune of great power was kept there, under the vigilance of a creature of great power. They convened regularly in a mansion called the Gloomkeep and discussed their secret studies, and, sometimes, even plans of loosing the disciples' grip on their brethren. They were not interested in exploring their dimension, and no one knows what its mountains, plains, or seas have to offer. There was also the netherworld, where all who died went. That realm had been ruled by a creature that was referred to as the Angel of Death. Could it be that same demon that resided within the lower catacombs of hell? Its fiery pits and crystal temples were mentioned, yet not thoroughly depicted because none of the living may lay eyes upon the wonders of the realm of the dead. Finally, there was a world of pure evil, a domain known as Domain of Black Magic. That world was the sanctuary of renegade magi who delved into the dark arts of necromancy and witchcraft. Those renegades created a resemblance of a society of their own, ruled by a council of the 5 chosen most powerful dark magi. That foul council extended its power from a place called the Wizard's Manse, a small palace where the 5 conducted their darkest experiments and controlled their brethren. Though considered renegades and heretics, those black magi were fulfilling the will of the deities in a way, and were a part of the mechanism of manipulation over humanity. Their dark and humid world was also not explored as the wizards preferred to remain in their castles and laboratories. A rune of dark power was kept in a secret place, along with the council's burial grounds and magical library. The book went on to depict the corruption that took over humanity, the rebellion, and the slaughtering of the disciples, the wars among the dark magi that led to their fall, and the deity's decision to put an end to it all and seal the elder worlds forever. It was there that the fifth world was mentioned, a small planet simply named Quake. It contained a huge underground cathedral, from where the other four worlds could be controlled and attuned by a deity that had control over that small world. When the original worlds were abandoned, one of the ancient gods was left in that world to keep watch over the runes and the forbidden realms. I was truly amazed by what I read. I was sure that Baphomet had plans to take possession of the elder power and fulfill his master plan. Yet, I had little time and I decided to think about all that later. I had to check 2 more floors of the tower, and I knew that other amazing things were waiting for me to be discovered. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. The next floor was a treasury where artifacts, undoubtedly from the elder worlds, were kept. Of those items, I should mention a collection of magic rings, a set of 4 precious stones, each of them representing one of the 4 worlds, a set of potions with unknown effects, and a black box that contained 5 human skulls that emanated great power. The runes on the box stated that those were the skulls of the members of the last council of the realm of black magic. I was strongly tempted to take them, but I remembered my decision not to touch anything. The last floor contained the greatest treasure of all, something that left an everlasting impression in me. A small antechamber led me into a hallway, lit by chandeliers that only had 4 orbs of contained arcane power inside it. I stepped closer. Those were observation orbs of great magnitude and they showed images from other places. It was then that I realized the altar on the first floor was set to be exactly within the tower's center, thus powering those observation orbs. I could not imagine what distant places they would show, amplified by the altar's great power. With their specially altered configurations, those orbs could see beyond even the strongest magical barriers. Each of them showed an entirely different room at unknown locations. In each room, I beheld a glowing rune. I realized that I was looking at the runes of the elder worlds. I knelt on the floor, struck with surprise. On the top floor of his secret tower, Baphomet kept the greatest treasure of all, specially made observation orbs that allowed him to watch the eternal runes whenever he wants. The opportunity was unique. I stepped closer and took a look. The first orb showed a small balcony over a huge pool of lava surrounded by columns and the stone walls of an unknown building. Above the pool hung a strange device, and on the other side was a sealed shaft. On the balcony rested a rune, so simple, I could hardly recognize it, emanating untold power that felt similar to the energies I had felt on Earth. The second orb showed an underground chamber lit by several torches. On an altar of iron, I saw another rune, and it was surrounded by an aura of darkness and malignant evil that could only be the power of black magic. The power felt so sweet and seductive that I understood the reason it was coveted so jealously by the dark magi. Danger I felt about this rune, it was a vessel of power and elusive loss of control. A bridge over a pit of lava surrounded by smoldering sepulchres led to a small platform where I beheld another rune. The third orb showed me the netherworld and its rune that emanated power very close to me, power of the dead and pure chaos. Chaos was the very essence of hell, and that rune would be a valuable asset for my demonic realm. The last orb displayed an azure hall, lit by glowing magical globes. On dais of sapphire lay the most powerful rune of all, the one that held the energy of the deities and the power that they had bestowed upon their disciples. I felt the enormous might that the room exuded. I had no doubts that I saw a room of the Azure Palace mentioned in the book. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. Time was running out and I had to go hurry. I threw one last glance at the runes and hurried down the stairs. In my haste, I nearly disrupted my combination of protective spells, but I was able to restore it before any trap could detect me. I went out of the tower. The aura of menace made me look around me in panic, as if someone had just caught me. There was no one around and I sighed in relief. I quickly opened a gate and returned to the unholy cathedral. I had to wait for a report from my minions to come and check the information that came in during my absence. but my mind was elsewhere. I could not shake the image of the runes out of my mind. I could not forget the mighty artifacts that I found. I could not stop thinking about what I learned. All those things that made me think of a bold plan. A plan to destroy you, Marine. Chapter 22, Chapter 22. Chapter XXII, Strategy. I went out, on a balcony that was still intact after your assault on the unholy cathedral. I looked upon the shining falls of lava and blood, the smoldering plains where the damned roamed, and the imposing cliffs that rose above all else, separating the continent into two. The burning vista of hell was magnificent, just as before when I did not have heavy problems on my mind. For the first time in my long life, I was losing my confidence in hell's inevitable triumph over all creation. The thought that a mere mortal had this demoralizing effect infuriated me. Yet, I calmed down quickly, knowing that it was sober thinking and cunning that can destroy you. For me it was obvious that you were the unique phenomenon of destiny's path, created millennia ago by the curse of the last of humanity in its purest form. Changing the map of destiny was beyond the power of any gatekeeper. Even a deity such as Baphomet could not even think of altering the ever-swirling streams of fate and balance. Still, there was a force in the universe that could breach the set scheme and accomplish the purposes of those who would wield it. Changing of destiny could only be done through the very same power that was used to weave fate's elusive streams. The Elder Runes. I was convinced that claiming the runes would give me the power to change the very course of existence and ultimately destroy you, returning the scales to their initial position. The task that I had to accomplish was the claiming of those ancient artifacts that inevitably involved the breaching of the protective shield that kept the Elder Worlds locked for all eternity. How could I devise a spell that could penetrate that barrier and grant me passage beyond the boundaries of the known universe? The way I imagined it, I would need a way to puncture the surface of the barrier and then use a force to corrupt the very fabric of the shield. What could I use as the components I needed? First, I would need a tripolaized spell of teleportation. Something that was beyond my power. I could use some of the claimed human technologies. One of their crude but easy to fine-tune gates, a quantum accelerator of some kind, or any generator of volatile force fields. As for a force that would disrupt such powerful arcane flows of energy that the shield was reinforced with I would need a great destructive force. Not a force, the way you know it, human, not a force that inflicts destruction in the physical world, but a power that fragments the fabric of reality. Something that could be sustained stable long enough to do its job. Something that go beyond the limitations of the energy variables of a void sphere. That was exactly what I needed. Seconds after this thought came to me, I almost fell on the floor shaking. I was uneasy to even think of void spheres. I could hardly imagine using one of those, let alone think of working on it and combining it with other spells or devices. Perhaps the time has come, human, to tell you about what those spheres were and why gatekeepers were so afraid of them. As their name implies, a void sphere creates emptiness and nothingness. When activated, it instantly corrupts and completely decomposes the very fabric of existence, time, and space in its area of effect, leaving absolute destruction in its wake. Can you imagine the sphere's destructive power? It destroys both space and time within seconds. The absolute void that it opens does not contain anything, not even reality itself. A concept that is hard for your tiny brain to contain. You know well, that the physical world cannot contain voids. The gaping wound left in reality by a void sphere is quickly filled in, and it is then that terrible destruction takes place. The absolute emptiness causes an implosion of magnitude that a human cannot imagine. Let me use an example. A spherical void with a diameter of 1 meter, causes destruction in a radius of, the way I understand human measures, at least 2 miles. Yes, a little larger void is capable of destroying whole planets within seconds. But I have not yet told you why gatekeepers are so afraid of those artifacts. We, gatekeepers, are invariably bound to the streams of reality and the fabric of time and space, thus being able to open gates and wield the power of summoning. Void spheres are able to annihilate the reality we are connected with, thus inflicting heavy damage on us, as we are suddenly drained of power. What is the feeling? In such situations a gatekeeper feels exactly like you, human, would feel when you suffer from a severe blood loss, for time and space are gatekeeper's lifeblood and driving force. The pain we feel is unlike anything you have ever felt. Therefore, we resent the usage of those artifacts and hope that it would never be necessary to resort to such extreme measures. Yet, the situation with you was desperate and I was willing to use anything that would allow me to achieve my goal. If I had to suffer in order to obtain the runes, I was ready to endure anything. The last problem was that I could not think of a way to tell my lord, Baphomet, about my plan without exposing that I knew too much about the Elder Worlds, which would inevitably tell him what I had done. The only strategy I could think of was to wait and hope that Baphomet, a deity with immense power, would destroy you and make the stealing of the runes unnecessary. Planning was essential for survival in that dark situation I was in. I was curious about the current situation in the city. With a negligent gesture I summoned an observation orb and tried to adjust it carefully. I saw the city and columns of smoke rising above it. The decrepit canned meat factory at the end of the town, which was used by you as an entrance to the city, was burning, as were the inmost dens. A battle was going on in the suburbs. I knew you were puzzled by the situation you were in. Trapped within the walls that we had erected around the suburban sectors. One of the special reinforcements had already teleported in and they were fighting you, inflicting heavy damage on the buildings. I had serious doubts whether they would succeed. I thought that for you to reach the suburbs, you must have passed through the industrial zone. Indeed, a Hell Knight I secretly contacted told me that you ruined much of the facilities in that area and was lured into the Nazis' castle. There, you wiped them out and returned to the city after destroying their inner sanctum, where the special relics were. Those humans could not stop you, yet you saved us some effort by killing all of them. I knew what Baphomet's course of action would be. Throw as many minions as possible against you, and, should they fail, lure you into his dark palace where you would undoubtedly meet your doom. I would enjoy watching my master showing you new dimensions of pain. I had hoped that Baphomet could possess the power to override the shackles of destiny and defeat you for good, removing the last barrier to the conquering of the earth that was already deserted by your brethren. Baphomet's strategy would be to make sure that you find your way into the palace of the icon of sin. Anthena. Your victorious march would be broken as overwhelming legions of the endless servants of Baphomet drown you. I grinned and the light of the lava pits near the cathedral gave my teeth an eerie glow. Far beyond the thick clouds of smoke of burned flesh and sulfur, I beheld the great mountains of no return. Standing proud and solid, just as my confidence was restored and was solid once again. It was at that moment that my minions came and reported that the House of Pain and the Hell Keep were repaired and restored to satisfactory condition as best as it was possible. I praised them for the good work and let them have rest for some time. A special reward in that time of war. I decided to set my command center in the Hell Keep and watch over you and Baphomet's plan of decimating you. The Hell Keep had always been overlooked, standing in the shadow of the famous Pandemonium. I had the opportunity to spend quite some time there and explore it. Its most impressive feature was the mystic chamber of records, where the exact record of who inhabited hell was kept. That keep was also the guardian at the entrance of Inferno, and its eternal vigil ensured that no one entered the continent uninvited. Except maybe in your case. The keep's tower provided me with a perfect spot to watch over Inferno and deploy the observation orbs that would allow me to watch over any other place I wished. Again, I sat in my throne and waited to see what would happen and how my master would bring the war to end and claim the earth for all eternity. The hours passed slowly, no one contacted me. I spent the time looking through some old records that depicted one of Hell's great wars against an alien civilization. A civilization that existed no more after being consumed by our infernal power. Memories of glory and triumph came to me, and further kindled my hatred towards the mortal marine that dared challenge us. My determination to see you dead was stronger than any determination of destiny that could protect you. I still could not believe that a creature with a ridiculously short life, like you, could defeat some of the infernal legion's mightiest generals in battle and survive after the most insidious of machinations that hell used to kill you. Going back to my early days, I remembered the inherent weakness and clumsiness of humans that was always an asset for USA Euro. Did I have the courage to stand against destiny itself? Did I have the strength to accomplish what I had planned? Would all that I have fought for survive? My thoughts were interrupted by an apparition that appeared beside me with a silent crackling sound. Baphomet had news for me. I knew what was going on even before he said a word. I had already felt a familiar presence that was somewhere beyond the mountains that separate the continent. You had passed through the gate in the city and were in hell once again. Somewhere within the antechamber of the infernal plains, the place known as the Nirvana. Baphomet's plan of throwing everything at you, in order to weaken you before the encounter within his palace, was already in motion. The problematic human was on his way to meet the one who could change destiny and bring balance back to the scheme. The last act of the drama had begun, and the victor could only be one. Chapter 23, Chapter 23. Chapter XXIII, Approach. The constant screams of the burning souls mixed with the roar of rivers of lava and blood, creating a vile cacophony that dominated the smoldering landscape of hell and its darkest pits. Somewhere within that chaos, a lone human being fought his way through the legions of the damned, having no idea where he was going, or even why he went there. I stared at the mountain, wondering whether there was anything that I could do to aid my master. I returned to the large hall at the Hell Keep's top and sat down on the floor. A crooked gesture and arcane chanting brought into existence an observation orb that showed a panoramic view of the continent beyond the mountain. A small column of smoke rising from the catacombs caught my attention. The little human was obviously trapped within the cryptic passages of the vile sepulchres that were hidden there. Wishing you many visits by the undead that inhabited those dark tunnels, I looked at the other buildings and tried to perceive the energy channels that connected teleports within them. Baphomet had set up an elaborate network with the purpose of taking you through the most dangerous places, ultimately trapping you within his own palace. I was curious where your perilous journey would take you. The abandoned mines, the monster condo and the chasm were some of the areas that awaited you on your journey. I had some worries about the damage you could inflict on those glorious edifices of hell, yet I had faith in my Lord and the grim determination to offer any assistance if needed. Nothing could be sweeter for an enraged demon than long-awaited vengeance. I hoped my master would allow me to have your corpse in my personal collection of trophies, and I was sure that it would be my most prized possession. As the time was not right for pointless distractions, I decided to bide my time making some emergency preparations. My encounters with you, human, had taught me a harsh lesson. Always concerned with strategy and cunning moves against hell's enemies, I planned to make sure that you would not survive if somehow you tried to escape into Inferno. I gathered what troops I had left, and sent them to repair the fortifications at the edge of the Howling Gorge, where the River of Shadows made its way along the mountain, and assumed positions there, waiting for further orders. I sent additional warnings to the commanders at the Monster Condo and the Spirits World about any tricks you might use in combat, as well as strategic advice on the utilization of your human weaknesses. I was told that Baphomet had cleared the Great Hall in his citadel and it was prepared for your potential arrival. The great demon lord was filled with burning passion and determination to punish the mortal who dared challenge him. Once again, I thought how much my master had inspired me over the eons. I went back to the records chamber in the Hell Keep, seeking to find any powerful demonic minions that could be brought to aid in your destruction. To my surprise, it seemed that there were missing specimens. I clearly remembered an encounter from the dark past of humanity, a vile heresy, his loyalty to hell reaching pure insanity. He and his armies of fallen priests, lured to his dark standard, caused some quite pleasing atrocities and foul deeds on one of Earth's continents in ages past. I was sure that his soul and those of his followers were taken into hell as some of its most valuable possessions, yet I could not find any of them on the records. The same was with the ancient warlord, and his frenzied warriors who came to hell after ages of pillaging and murders in some northern regions of your world. You know nothing about those. The amazing past of your species was hidden by many throughout your history, as the truth is very often inconvenient. And indeed very inconvenient I felt, finding out about those anomalies. I had no idea where and why Baphomet would send those champions of hell. Overwhelmed by curiosity, I went to the unholy cathedral, looking for some records of hell's outposts in other worlds. A dark hall, with many chests covered with dust awaited me. I rekindled the spell that would keep the braziers burning and opened some of the chests in this forgotten reliquary. Some old dark relics, scripts of arcane wisdom and maps were the dusty content I discovered. One chest held a tome that would be a reference about hell's outposts used by the demonic warlocks. Everything in that book was familiar except the reference of one outpost that was noted to be deserted, yet keeping artifacts of great power. I looked at the coordinates and gasped with surprise. They were not given in the runic script that gatekeepers used to describe energy channels, parameters and time-space variables. It was written in warlock glyphs. The signs that only they could read. I could not imagine why that outpost, small and inactive as it was, would be kept hidden from us, gatekeepers. I knew that Baphomet's relations with the warlocks were special, just as his relation with the gatekeepers, yet I never suspected that they had something in secret from the rest of the infernal minions. I read further, looking for an answer. There was a name mentioned, the Ice Weasel. That sounded very familiar. Ice Weasel was the ritual name of a great Atlantean mage, experienced in the fields of demonic and cold magic. The latter came out to be his undoing. His experiments led to an explosion that left only a frozen solid corpse for his brethren to discover in his ravaged laboratory. Charged with demonic energies, he was cast down into hell in the form of one of the most hideous creatures I have ever seen in hell. The Ice Revenant. Glowing with an eerie blue aura and radiating an infernal chill, a skeleton comprised of sapphire and ice roamed the plains of hell, hunting down the souls of the damned and claiming them as eternal servants. I had met the Ice Weasel on several occasions and I had the opportunity to even get a few words out of him, for the Ice Revenant was mostly silent and brooding. Seeing the reference about him, I remembered that I did not see his name in the records. He was within that mysterious outpost, and I had no doubts that the other missing specimens were there too, hidden for some mysterious purpose. I stood up and went out into the long corridor lined with columns and chandeliers. I was astonished. First, the Iron Tower and then that secret outpost. I knew that a deity such as Baphomet has many secrets, yet I never imagined that there would ever be a day for me to feel deceived by my own brethren. I should not allow emotion to interfere with my work, especially in that moment when you were on your approach towards the icon of sin. I was sure that you would very soon be there. I returned to the Hell Keep and waited. The moment of destiny's turning was close and I wanted to be prepared. There was a possibility that my Lord would break the millennia-old laws and ask us, gatekeepers, for aid. Then we would come in the heat of battle and crush you with our tremendous power. I so much wanted that moment. The moment of the personal encounter. I prepared myself. I chose the spells I would use against you. I put on a physical form of a minotaur-like creature that would allow me to don my burning armor and runic axe that I hoped to use in the dismemberment of your mortal body. I was informed that the other 12 were already in hell and ready for battle. With a loud roar, I went out on the platform and waited for the signal. I was not allowed to interfere in the battle directly, yet the 13 had to be close to it, as we would not be able to open gates inside it, once Baphomet assumes his summoning position. I could imagine the way the whole citadel would tremble as deity and destiny-led man fought for the ultimate victory. That fight would change Earth's or Hell's fate forever. Everything was at stake, the circle that had begun in the Elder Worlds would either be complete or broken forever. The signal came. A lone human fought against the cyberdemon who guarded the entrance to Baphomet's citadel. The Guardian was losing, and the human you, my unexpected listener, would enter the throne chamber soon. The 13 assumed position within the towers of the citadel and kept watch over the arena of that last fight. The green-clad figure passed through the chamber where gifts of great power were left by demons that had been granted audience with the demon lord. As you enter the portal, you were quite surprised to find yourself in an enormous hall, standing before a visage that chilled you to the bone. Baphomet grinned and greeted his enemy with the ancient formula of challenge of the deities, Orimer Nhjm Tifxamwoy Imag et Naoti. Chapter 24, Chapter 24. Chapter XXIV, Battle. The rocket flew through the smoke and destroyed the pillars beneath the platform. Unable to support the arachnotron's weight, it collapsed and fell into the pool of hot mud that was already filled with debris. A baron of hell roared in anger as he saw the small human figure run by and jump up to a higher section of the damaged platform. The chaos of the fierce battle that had broken out in the great hall was deafened by Baphomet's maddening laughter. Before the human figure could take cover, 5 new demons had already joined the combat. You, human, do not know how that battle looked like from my point of view. It looked like a rather amusing hunt that posed one frail human against an unlimited number of hell's strongest minions. Watching the destruction unleashed, I tried to estimate the extent of destruction that the palace would sustain. The good thing was that once you were dead, the demonic servitors would be quite motivated to make all necessary repairs throughout the damaged facilities of hell. Oh, I longed for the moment when you would finally fall and allow us to finish what was started so long ago. I was overjoyed seeing you overwhelmed by the endless infernal hordes as they came summoned by their master. I wanted to take part in the battle so much, yet I felt that the access for us was blocked by my lord's magic. The hall was filled with smoke, the hanging darkness was interrupted by frequent explosions and discharges of plasma of the warlock energies of demonic troops. It was a question of time before you would run out of ammo and would succumb to the swarms that hunted you relentlessly. Many demons had already fallen, but there were hundreds that would come to replace them. It seemed that you had realized that because you tried to find a way out of your desperate situation, a last attempt to outrun the inevitable. The battle seemed to go so well and according to our desires. And then something happened. Destiny is cruel, and apparently, it was decided that we would fail again. I do not know what force attracted you to the alcove where the control panel used by the palace majordomo was located. Desperately seeking salvation, you pulled that switch and activated the mechanism that raises the focal pillar that is used for special acts of summoning. At first I did not think that would change anything at all, but shortly afterwards dark suspicions filled my mind. Baphomet had assumed the summoning position and the opened orifice of summoning was a potential vulnerability. The focal pillar could be used against that weakness by someone desperate enough of such an attempt. Someone like you. It is a long way from the top platform to the mud pit, and therefore you decided to make your own shortcut by using the last charge of the BFG to melt and collapse the lower platforms, forming a quick way for you to slide down. Baphomet's thunderous voice ordered the troops to block your path. You killed those warriors with your last chain gun bullets and the rocket launcher was the last weapon that you had available. The other damaged platforms were groaning threateningly as the Mancubi tried to move closer and shoot their fireballs at you. Relying entirely on your heavily worn-out boots, you trudged clumsily through the boiling slime that, by the way, was specially brought for your arrival. Still, those boots resisted long enough for you to lower the pillar and climb on it. It was then that the drama really began. At first, I found your going up and down quite funny and helpless. The cacodemons and pain elementals were already preparing to finish you off. It was then that something somehow turned your attention towards the orifice and gave you the idea to shoot there, in the hope of inflicting damage upon the source of the endless demonic invasion. A slow movement of the hand, pulling the trigger, and a missile flew right into the orifice. I fell to the ground as a wave of pain struck me. A powerful tremor shook the whole palace as ripples of energy were released from an unknown source. Baphomet's laughter was changed by a booming roar of anger and pain. The surprise and hatred that rose within my master made him forget the ancient laws and give the signal for the gatekeepers to enter the hall and destroy the human. My brothers prepared to enter the hall and I hesitated. I stopped in the middle of the gesture and thought, it was apparent to me that a powerful ancient force was protecting you, a force that could contend even with the might of the elder worlds. I was not sure whether I could stand against such might, I was not sure it was right to stand against it. And I knew for sure that I was not supposed to have such thoughts. My brothers entered the hall. Did you see them? No, I guess so, they appeared in the rear end of the hall and you could not turn around and see them. When I saw them moving towards you, preparing spells of destruction, I shook off all doubts and hesitation and stepped forward towards a. A second missile hit its target. A powerful explosion, more powerful than anything I had ever seen or imagined, echoed through the whole realm. I saw, as if in a dream, the whole palace beneath me explode into a roaring cataclysm of unleashed energies that spread throughout hell, bringing terrible destruction upon its surface. Through the shroud of pain, I felt tidal waves of molten metal and falling meteors of overheated minerals ravage the continents of hell. Erupting volcanoes and tremendous quakes appeared everywhere and filled the air with thick smoke. The pain was even greater when I saw a small green human figure jump into the collapsing gate that Baphomet had opened to summon demons from the earth. I realized that you had escaped your doom once again and were back on earth. Seconds after that, another tremor caused a shower of burning debris to fall upon me. I lost consciousness. The awakening was slow and rather painful. As I rose from the piles of deformed pieces of stone and metal, I tried to realize what had just happened. I looked around in an attempt to distinguish clear shapes. A burning crater could be seen where the citadel of the icon of sin was just some moments ago. Or how long had I remained buried under the debris? I quickly dismissed that question as there was something more disturbing than all the destruction around me. I could not feel the presence of my master and my brothers. They were gone. I was all alone among the ruins of my realm and the disarrayed remnants of the infernal legions. Even though the loss was great, I could not feel anything like you humans do. My only thought was to organize the demons and bring some order. Some time later, I saw several barons running towards the site of the catastrophe. They were not quite pleased to find me the only survivor of the drama that had taken place there. They wanted me to come with them and try to assume control over hell. Control. I was hardly able to stay awake. Baphomet's death had caused unprecedented eruptions of raw energy and chaotic power. In that swirling energy storm I could not concentrate on what was going on, I could not use my powers, a cacophony of noises was echoic in my mind. I told the barons that I could not do anything until the energies settle. They agreed that they would need time to check the ruins and bring as many demons as possible from Earth. The thought of the invasion's failure did not bother me as I was overcome by exhaustion. The barons took me to a crypt that had remained intact during the cataclysm and left there to rest. They left and promised that they would return when I feel better. The following months were hard. There were gatherings, quarreling, expeditions, opening of random gates so that survivors on Earth could be evacuated, and the building of the stronghold. The stronghold was the gathering point for all survivors, a huge infernal fortress that was built on the relatively preserved plains of Inferno. Protected by steel walls and trenches filled with molten metal, it was the last bastion of demonic power, where every minion of hell had to come. In order to have room for all survivors, a vast network of crypts was built under the stronghold. The barons and hell knights had done an amazing job even without a leader to guide them. And when I finally awoke, there was another surprise for me. One of my brothers was also alive. As the energy disturbance had ended, we were able to assume control over the stronghold. We both felt an emptiness inside as our master was dead and hell's glory shattered forever. We had succeeded in evacuating most of our troops from Earth and there were additional encampments built near the stronghold. All tomes and weapons that were salvageable had been gathered in the locked armory of the fortress and were to be carefully examined and catalogued by us. We also wanted to make attempts and repair the unholy cathedral that was relatively unscathed by the catastrophe. Dis and the Hell Keep were heavily damaged by the tidal waves of the burning seas of hell, and their repair would require years of work and resources that were not available. Our scouts surveyed the ravaged smaller continents and islands and rescued many of the warlocks that pledged our loyalty to us. As things seemed to be stabilized, it was time to decide on the future of Hell and its survivors. My brother and I analyzed the situation. All parts of Hell, except for the central areas of Inferno, were heavily damaged and practically lost. All combat activity on Earth had been stopped and humanity had started to return to their ravaged planet. The gateway to Hell in the city was sealed, so there was no danger of human assaults against us. With the magical storms that had raged throughout the realm, it would be impossible for the humans to open one of their crude unstable gates, and therefore Hell was safe for that time. While it was good that we had stabilized and secured our home world, the question of its future still stood before us. I had the bad feeling that our views about it will contradict. I felt clearly that my brother knew something that I did not know. To my credit, I had knowledge of the Iron Tower, so I still had an advantage. Each of us had to share his idea with the barons that were gathered to take part in the making of the decision. It was decided that my brother would start first. He knew much about the secret outpost that, supposedly, was the hiding place of the Ice Weasel. He claimed that the outpost's crypts contained great power secured there by Baphomet. That outpost was on one of the moons of the great planet just beyond Mars. The name of that moon was Io, and there already was a crude human colony that was to be expanded. My brother planned to take over that colony and claim the power of the secret outpost. He also stated that he had a plan of quick and easy invasion that would allow us to maintain a mobile base of our own near the colony so that the plan is brought to fruition fast. The key point in that plan was the building of a spaceship, an enormous construct driven by the last Gatekeeper's energies, built of the magically charged stone, metal, flesh, and bone that were abundant in Hell, even after the catastrophe. That spaceship would surprise the humans after a few preliminary attacks through a gate are made for the purpose of distraction. My brother would control the ship assuming the incarnation of a spitter, a summoning demon that is able to control huge mechanical entities such as a spaceship. I did not like this I considered the spitter to be an inferior transformation of a true gatekeeper that should use its pure form that is entirely focused on the summoning and command of demonic troops. Yet my brother was convinced that his plan was the only way to restore Hell's glory and bring swift revenge upon the humans. I could not agree that plan had too many risky points to be used with confidence. I also despised the idea of my brother assuming the form of a spitter, knowing that he would be doomed to stay in that inferior incarnation for all eternity, bound to control a mere spaceship and diminish his summoning skills in time. I believed that my plan would be better as I had clear vision what I aimed to do and what I would need to do it, while the other gatekeeper was not completely sure about what could be found in that outpost. I stepped forth and disclosed my plan. Everyone was quite shocked as they heard about the Iron Tower and its secrets. A quick visit to the place proved that it really existed, and I even let them take a look in the first floor. Before they could shake off the surprise, I told them what I intended: overrun a human facility where I would gain control of quantum accelerator devices and use them in conjunction with a void sphere to claim the Elder Runes and use their power to restore Hell and even make an attempt to bring Baphomet back to life, though he would be much weakened. I added that the rune's power could also be used to destroy the human who was responsible for the disaster, and to whom I am talking right now. As my brother expressed his disapproval of my impossible and insane plan, the barons decided that it should be us, the gatekeepers, that would decide what would be done. We quarreled for a long time. None of us was willing to give ground and accept the other's position. We knew that we could not allow dissension among the denizens of Hell, and only one strategy should be followed. We did not reach agreement. The barons frowned and discussed something among them. They called the warlocks and disputed something with them. Finally, the elder warlock came to us and stated that the current situation could only be solved with the elimination of one of the rivaling leaders. A ritual combat would be held, and those of us who survives would become the ruler of Hell and carry on his own plan of restoring its lost glory. I sighed. I had never imagined that I would one day have to participate in a deadly ritual fight with one of my brothers. The warlocks announced the time of the battle, and there was no way I could refuse it without losing my honor and being banished from Hell forever. The time was desperate and desperate measures had to be taken. I had to win the fight. To do this, I had to kill my brother. Chapter 25, Chapter 25. Chapter XXV, Reign. There would be no rules in the battle that would determine the next ruler of Hell. Inferno was the arena, the vast smoldering plains and the shattered shores. The fight would go on until the death of one of the combatants. The winner takes all. I looked around the dark chamber where I prepared myself, thinking about the possible advantages that I would have against my brother. I knew that he was not very familiar with Inferno and its peculiarities, while I had spent quite some time throughout the hidden corners of the continent. I also knew that my brother had no knowledge of the spells that I had brought with me from my visits on Earth. I decided that it would be wise to rely on surprises and cunning, as we had almost equal powers. My determination and wrath that had accumulated for so long would have to be enough to fuel my destructive power and crush my opponent. What I needed was good concentration and confidence. With such allies, I could win any fight. Only for a moment, I thought about all the events that brought me to that point. Everything had changed so fast and so fundamentally. What was wrong with this universe? What was going to happen in the shadowed future? I went out and headed towards the place where the combat would begin, between the House of Pain and Mount Erebus, an area of hills covered by protruding bone ribs and other bone fragments that were left there after some ancient cataclysm. I saw no one, all demons had hidden within the stronghold and its crypts. He was waiting for me there, eyes burning and teeth showing. I stopped and looked at him. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. How did it come to this, brother? It does not matter. Destiny is to unfold shortly. You know nothing of destiny. But I believe I can teach you a lesson. Before I could finish, a bolt of blazing energy was hurled towards me. I evaded it with ease, surprised that he would start with something so weak. That was a trick, I quickly hid behind one of the ribs that were rooted in the ground as a fiery eruption appeared in the place where I stood seconds before that. I formed two balls of energy in my hands and threw them in the direction I expected him to be. There were explosions and pieces of bone rained on me. Seconds afterwards, balls of fire were raining from the sky, as my opponent used a spell of mass destruction to wear me down. I stepped out of the bone field and assumed position among the scorched lands around the damaged House of Pain. He came, thinking that I was scared. The roaring waves of flame that I sent towards him proved him wrong. I levitated above the blasted lands and cast bolts of lightning down upon him. He reacted quickly and teleported somewhere else, immediately followed by me. He tried to escape into the unholy cathedral, but I followed the tachyon trail of his gate. I chased him down a corridor in the edifice, lined with a colonnade and stained glass windows. I tried to be precise and hit him with the lightning while he used orbs of explosive energy. I ran after him, among a rain of broken glass and falling columns. My adversary showed good imagination by lifting a statue of a Hell Knight, throwing it at me. The sharp pain in my left arm, which was hit by the statue, did not stop me from collapsing the support pillars and bringing the roof down upon him. Injured to a sufficient extent, he retreated to long great hall that was filled with abandoned altars and unlit chandeliers. My brother tried to use a similar trick by ripping the tiles from the floor and throwing them at me. He was too slow. A movement of my finger was enough to light the braziers and candles throughout the room. My next gesture caused their fires to grow and coalesce into a fierce storm of fire that incinerated the hall. Realizing that it was too dangerous for him to remain there, he ran outside the cathedral, heading towards a great river of blood that flowed nearby. He tried to use the old trick with the eruptions, but I was too quick to be caught in any of them. Another bombardment with fireballs from the sky annoyed me. I called forth my burning wrath, making the blood river boil with tremendous power, spilling hot waves over the shore. Desperate, he looked up towards the fortification on the side of the mountain and teleported there. I followed. We were not allowed to go beyond the boundaries of the continent, still we could fight on that mountainside. Without having any time to rest, I entered the combat once again.
Asterisk asterisk asterisk. It must have been quite an interesting show for the other demons in the stronghold to watch, as we fought among the fortifications causing explosions and eruptions of energy. It was there, on the mountainside, that he almost won a few times, catching me unprepared with spells of steel death. The many sharp blades that he summoned injured me severely, and I had to use some of my remaining energy for a partial healing. I responded to the waves of steel death with a protective barrier that turned the blades away. Not knowing what to do, he summoned a small fire elemental and ran towards a higher tower in the fortifications. He obviously wanted to slow me down. It was very easy to sever the powers that held the elemental into existence and allow it to dissipate. Immediately afterwards I decided that it would be a waste of time to follow him, and therefore I simply summoned a small meteorite that crushed into the tower. From the ruins, my brother came out a bit stunned but willing to go on. I used the opportunity to apply his own favorite trick. I called a fiery eruption from underground that shrouded him in thick smoke. The smoke did not allow me to see that he quickly opened a gate and escaped to the Slough of Despair. Slightly irritated with that endless chase, I followed. The slough was a dark place, filled with many large slabs of stone and pits filled with lava. It was here that I used my advantage of knowing Inferno very well. I only had to feel where the souls of the slothful and the desperate were at unrest. I felt that spot and I was sure my opponent was there. I decided to use some finesse and unorthodox methods to get him. The impaled bodies all over the place were the perfect tools. A few well-placed magical words, and the corpses came to life, getting off the poles and attacking my brother with their envenomed nails and teeth. My opponent was distracted by that unexpected attack, and I was able to unleash a volley of balls of molten metal on him. Seeing his cape burning reassured me, and I launched another spell that caused enormous ribs of bone to protrude from the ground, trying to impale my target. He swiftly jumped behind a pile of charred rocks and disappeared. The battle went on, among the rocks that covered the coast of the molten seas of hell. Each of us used telekinesis and sudden shifts in gravity, attempting to throw the other into the roaring waves of magma that formed a vast ocean. One such shift almost pushed me perilously close to the lava. I responded with rocks that were lifted from the barren shore and thrown upon him. Several rays of heat made me retreat, only to prepare and concentrate myself. Telekinesis requires good concentration, and at that moment, I had the perfect opportunity to seize him, and quickly throw him over the smoldering surface of the sea. While falling, he could overcome the dizziness and conjure a spell that quickly opened a small portal. I frowned when I saw that he had managed to escape again. I followed him to the rocky wasteland where he was. The cliffs near a great chasm, close to the warrens. There we went into skirmish with fireballs, lightning bolts, and quakes that shattered the rock beneath our feet. You little curious human probably realize that I cannot tell you absolutely everything. Suffice it to say that because of our fight, a rather huge section of the cliffs collapsed down into the molten sea that waited below. Fighting in the open was dangerous, and I retreated into the warrens. I knew the place well, while he had only visited it once in his life. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. It was cold and quiet. The warrens were a place of anomalies, warped by the raging energies of the souls of the insane. I slowly walked between two trees that were hanging in the air, upside down. I could not see well because of the shadows and light flashes that were changing rapidly, and the small eruptions of chaotic energies. I felt his presence somewhere within the insane chaos of the edifice. Trying to figure out which path to take. The strange thing about the warrens was that very often taking a path would return to the same place you were or get you to an entirely different place. To the monster condo, for example. I passed through a yard that perfectly imitated one such yard in the Hell Keep. The maddened souls had rather strong first impressions from the keep at the soul's entrance into hell. I heard a step somewhere beyond the hall with the piles of skulls. I moved there and found myself in kind of a labyrinth. Somewhere within it, my brother was looking for me. With a twisted smile, I remembered one of the peculiarities of the warrens. I raised my hand and gently increased the intensity of the magical field in the room. Immediately, the walls of the labyrinth disappeared and I saw my brother in the center of empty room, looking panicked with surprise. The flame wave that I released drove him into running through a corridor. I smiled again and reversed the polarity of the magical field. The corridor turned into a gaping chasm and my brother fell down into a pit, the bottom of which was covered with long sharp spikes. He could not open a gate in time and fell right on the deadly trap below. I did not hurry to get down to him. I carefully chose my way through the warrens, passing through something that looked like a messy armory, a distorted reflection of the Hellkeep armory. From there I took a glowing demonic sword and went down the stairs that led to the spike pit. He was there, looking at me with hatred, and in the same time, with pride about what I had just achieved. I bowed to him and he bowed in response, at least he tried to. I must admit that he fought valiantly and brought honor and glory to the name of the Gatekeepers. As I promised that I would not fail, hell and vengeance would fall upon those who had brought us ruin, I lifted the sword and came closer to him. I am sorry, brother. *******. I went out of the warrens, feeling a victor and a murderer at the same time. For a moment, I tried to imagine what it would have been if he had succeeded and tried to use a spaceship to awaken whatever was hidden on Io. But that was not important. I saw the group of warlocks and barons that were quickly approaching me. They came and knelt before me, proclaiming me Lord of Hell and absolute ruler of the realm. Following the ancient formula, I replied that they were worthy to be my servants and were thereby given the honor to worship and follow me until the end of my reign, whenever it might be. As we walked back to the stronghold, I saw the armies of arachnotrons and their spider masterminds standing on the fields of Inferno, greeting me with my victory and ascent on the throne of Lord of Hell. The loud roars that came out from the stronghold assured me that there would be a grand celebration. And indeed, there was. When all of demons had gathered within the fortress and on the vast fields around it, I got on the dais of black marble and spoke to all who were there to hear me. I remember it as clearly as it was yesterday, and I will repeat what I said, specially for you, little human. Children of the burning pit, I stand before you in a time, when our glory and pride was battered by our despised enemies. I am here in a time when a trembling mortal, through deceit and outright usage of tricks that only a coward without honor could exercise. I stand here as an avatar of hell's apocalyptic wrath that will crush our enemies and restore our pride as was foretold. Who are those who foolishly resisted our will? The humans. Who are those who sought to halt the triumph of our forces? The humans. Who are those who mocked us, and deceitfully defeated our glorious leader, the eternal Baphomet? The humans. They and that reckless man, who, in his arrogance, dared bring his foul mortal ways and disrupt the destiny that was promised to us. Here and now, I swear, the humans will pay for their sacrilege, they will witness their home ruined just as they ruined ours, they will see their fate shattered just as they shattered ours. Their suffering will be our legacy as we put an end to them forever and claim the reign over existence itself, which is our birthright. Or shadow shall dominate. The loud roars and screams that echoed through the whole realm of hell was the ultimate confirmation of my absolute power. I raised my hands as a chorus of lost souls rose in the burning skies, singing anthems of vengeance and destruction. My reign had begun. The last chapter of this dark story had begun. Chapter 26, Chapter 26. Chapter XXVI, Inevitability. What is it that bothers you, little human? The cold? Yes, it is cold in this place. I need energy to keep myself conscious and alive long enough to tell you all that I wanted you to know, and I am absorbing all energy from the surrounding area. When you go back to your army truck, you will find its battery fully deplete. As a last desperate measure, I absorbed even the heat in this place where we are right now, and it is becoming colder as the last reserves of energy diminish. Time is running out. There is one last thing I must tell you. I hope my remaining strength will be sufficient. The last chapter of this story is an episode you know very well, as it happened just a few hours ago. I will only present you my view of the events, just as I did in my tale so far. For many months, I worked only for the restoration of Hell and the rebuilding of Inferno. All of its buildings were nearly restored to their former glory, demons inhabited them, and I ruled over the continent from the restored palace of Dis. Neither I, nor any of my lieutenants cared about what was happening on earth, as we had many more tasks to accomplish in our own realm. All this ended when I felt the disturbance. The Temple of Darkness had been discovered and the humans had begun excavations and research. They had also built a huge scientific complex, where technologies aimed at the prevention of invasions from Hell were developed. As they made their experiments, I could clearly feel what they were working on. Quantum accelerators. That fact quickly brought my old ideas back to life after their long sleep in my mind. I knew the pitiful mortals would not be able to reach the void spheres, but I could. At last, I had the opportunity to accomplish my bold schemes. I spent a few days in the Iron Tower, thinking and planning. I had to take into account the technology that the humans were creating and the possible complications that it could create. I needed to make a test as soon as possible. It was not long before a small assault force was formed under the command of a cyberdemon. After many months, I called the power that was my birthright and opened a gate in the very heart of the complex. My warriors charged through, filled with bitter hatred and lust for the blood of humans. The quantum accelerator prototypes were activate. I was truly amazed. I felt the machine's effect as it corrupted and dislocated the strands that kept the gate together. It started to collapse and I had to intervene, in order to prevent a possible explosion, by balancing the energy flows. There were well-prepared Marines in that complex. They halted the advance of my troops, even though they sustained heavy casualties. The cyberdemon had to turn the fight in our favor. And then the gate buckled upon itself and collapsed with a loud hissing sound. Halfway through, the cyberdemon was cut in two. Shortly after, my remaining troops, cut off from their escape route, were defeated. I had clear idea of the accelerator's abilities and I was pleased because I was sure that the devices that the humans had built were very powerful, precise, fast, and worked without any faults. Those were perfect for my attempts to breach the barrier of the Elder Worlds. Once it was breached, the Void Sphere's power would do its destructive job. The last thing I had to consider was the way I would conquer the research complex. I also thought for a moment about the possible appearance of the cursed Marine, and I was right as you really appeared. I was not afraid of that probability. Meeting you was no longer a part of the conquest plan. It was personal. No human can truly comprehend the work that it takes to concoct and cast a spell. Every ingredient, be it a rune, an orb, a tome, blood, or a body part, has to be chosen carefully and used in proportions that would achieve the best balance between all ingredients. The spell I worked on was a very powerful and heavy to maintain system. A ring of 7 gates that had to be opened in precise places and maintained long enough against the power of the accelerators. At least one of them had to remain open. I chose my best demons to participate in the massive invasion that was to take place. Once the compound was overrun, I could bring even more from Hell. With a successful attack performed, I would assume my position, using the pure Gatekeeper summoning incarnation, at a gate of my choice and perform my experiments near it. The other prototypes would be set in special places throughout the base. Places that would serve as traps should you, or a trouble-making human like you, appear. I had some hopes that with the destruction of Baphomet, the force that was protecting you was finally gone, and you could be destroyed. The chosen day came. I was prepared to begin my last battle. I sat in my ritual circle and concentrated. I had to resist the accelerator's power long enough for my legions to get through. I rekindled the thoughts of revenge in my mind and started the invasion. The ring of 7 gates opened and my minions poured through them. The vicious battle that ensued was memorable. The greatest challenge that I had ever had as a commander. The good thing was that the humans focused their attention to the gates that were within the central scientific compounds, ignoring the one that was opened close to the sewage systems. I sent my most powerful minions there, so that they all would be able to pass through it before the humans could close it. They already worked on the closing of the other gates. I could hardly slow the process by quickly reversing the vortex polarities, though that did not prevent the gate from being closed. The battle went on with fierce fervor. Another gate collapsed, 5 remained. I ordered the arachnotrons to quickly move forward and crush the fortified areas where the control rooms for the accelerators were. With a powerful crash, a building in the western sector fell apart, opening the way into the marine barracks. Several black containers were already there, prepared to raise dead marines as former commandos, which would aid us in the battle. 4 gates remained. One of the accelerators was already under our control. Several powerful explosions ripped through the administrative buildings, sowing panic among the human defenders. 3 gates remained. All but 2 of the accelerators were under our control. My troops focused on the storage houses and the last laboratory buildings that were trying to repel the invasion. When the 5th gate collapsed, my warriors had already breached the bunker where the last Marines were fighting desperately to halt our advance and call for reinforcements. A powerful vibration told me that only 1 gate remained. The one I had noticed earlier. I had succeeded. All of my forces had passed through and the whole compound was swarmed by the legions of demons and their undead servitors. One last explosion marked the end of the battle and the full control that we had gained over the place. The last gate was to become the site of my manifestation in the mortal world, and there I would conduct my experiments. Waves of pain accompanied the metamorphosis. As always. With power flashes of energy, I transformed into the enormous head you saw, and took my place among the powerful machines that every gatekeeper has to build on his own. All connections were made and the harmony of flesh, machine, and magic was achieved. The gate and I were one. Opening the orifice of summoning, I called forth more and more legions of hell, which advanced in waves and invaded every corner of the compound. The last accelerator prototypes were hidden. The best of them brought before me, and set on 2 platforms built in the already transformed area. Next, the Archviles entered the Temple of Darkness and, following my instructions, bypassed the traps and protections, and brought me 2 void spheres. With extreme care, those spheres were set inside the accelerators and connected to their systems according to my designs. The experiments could finally begin. Yet, it was in that moment that I noticed the small green figure approaching the compound. I already knew who it was. I had longed for that meeting for a long time, and finally you came to me, alone and determined as I was. I do not have the strength to tell you all, and besides, you already know it. To clarify some dire situations in which you fell, I will tell you I set quite a few traps for you. The first trap was supposed to destroy you at the first accelerator that was hidden in the Marine Commander's headquarters. The cyberdemon that suddenly attacked you, was quite a bad surprise, wasn't it? Next was the Archvile Labyrinth. Entirely my idea, though I still have no idea how you survived it and avoided the deadly false accelerator that I had left there for you. The old Soul Sphere's storage was the greatest trap that I had set for you. I did everything possible to lure you there. You went to it, after passing through the Cyberdon, and my army of cyberdemons and spider masterminds greeted you. But damned be that day, you survived again. Or perhaps I should admire your valor. As a last expression of my respect for you, I will tell you of our last battle, the way I saw it. I was, in a way, happy that I finally met you personally. A few seconds of looking at you were enough. Next came the battle. My plan was to throw everything I could summon at you while the redesigned accelerators opened a portal. That portal would open on the additional focal pillar, on which a cyberdemon stood and launched missiles at you. Once the portal was open, the residual energies of the shield would exterminate any human being in the area, including you. That was how the shield was designed, as it was imperative that no human being ever reaches the Elder Worlds again. I only had to delay you, and for that purpose, I was willing to sacrifice all demons I had left. I enjoyed watching you fight so close to me. Each of your moves was perfect, even though you were wounded several times by my troops that had assumed strategic positions. As I tried to summon more and more of my minions, I felt that the balance was achieved for an attempt to breach the shield. The accelerators were activated and the void spheres inside them started to glow as they met the force of the shield. I felt its fabric tear slowly. I never imagined it was that powerful, and then the impulse was lost. The bitter thought that I had to wait for another impulse was overshadowed by the feeling that something tried to respond from beyond the shield. Whatever it was, its call was weak but aware of my actions. A baron of hell fell down, struck by shotgun pellets. A revenant quickly took his place, seeking the human's death. Ah, that battle was fierce, though I wished it to end, in any way, as soon as possible. I had deliberately made the focal pillars with a more complicated design so that you could not use them as easily as you did when Baphomet fell. I felt another impulse was ready. I charged at the barrier once again, yet it resisted once again after taking considerable damage. Again, I felt the response from the other side. It was more powerful and it was sure that something was trying to breach the shield as well. I started to hesitate whether I should go on with the experiment. It all ended when cruel destiny punished me once again. Chased by barons, hell knights, revenants, and a horde of lost souls, you made several maneuvers and landed on top of the primary pillar. Seconds later, a missile was sent towards me, and the orifice. A vast universe of pain opened before me as the missile hit. My tortured scream and several small explosions within the machinery mixed into a cacophony of chaotic noises. The pain was quickly forgotten when I felt that the gate was destabilizing, threatening me with a powerful explosion. I had to stabilize it quick. A powerful discharge of energy melted one of the support pillars nearby. The gate was leaking in the lower quadrant. Should more leakage appear, I would lose all control over it, and the result would be catastrophic. My minions knew well what was going on, and quickly gathered, trying to push you into the pool of molten metal below. Another steel support pillar was melted by an energy discharge. Another leakage in the gate had appeared and I was losing control as the last remnants of consciousness were trying to leave me. Strong vibrations shook the whole wall where the machines were installed. That could only mean that the gate was starting to deform, and any hope of stabilizing it was lost. I could see the flames that erupted, and the energy discharges that became more frequent, melting the platforms nearby and my troops that were on them. The broken link between the accelerators and me caused an overload of energy and the void spheres started to overheat, melting their way out of the devices and sinking into the stone floor, leaving magma in their wake. I just wanted it to end as I felt the vortex within me fragment and cause massive overheating that started to melt the walls of the whole building. Then came the second missile. When I lost consciousness, the accumulated energies were unleashed in the form of a titanic explosion that caused an inverted gate to form. It sucked the last surviving demons and the last accelerators together with the overheated void spheres. In a last effort to stay awake, I felt the spheres explode within hell, unleashing the voids they contained. Then darkness fell over me and everything became silent. Chapter 27, Epilogue. Epilogue, Death. This is where this story ends, little human. You won. You overcame all odds and proved to me that the universe was never like what I had imagined. I have always wanted to know the truth, but I went too far. I may have fought for a lost cause, though I regret nothing. I became convinced that destiny itself guided you, and there is yet more you will do, for your battle does not end here. I have felt that there are things to come and the future is dark for all of us. I know you will be able to handle everything that comes, and I am sure that the balance of existence is safe. You defeated hell and its masters, but now greater enemies would rise before humanity. There are two threats that remain. In my attempts to breach the Elder Worlds, I awakened something there. I could not identify it, but I felt that its power was growing as it tried to respond to me. Whatever it was, it is now awakened and it will try to find a way into your world. You must be very careful, even though that might happen after a very long time. No matter. Be alert at every moment and have faith in your abilities. Still remember the Elder Worlds had a foothold into your world millennia ago for the Atlanteans that I fought in ages past, were clearly descendants of the ancient disciples that ruled the Elder World and were loyal to the deity I never found out what they wanted with your world, but their decisive attack on me could mean that they were still in touch with one of the old gods. That is the first threat against you and your kind. I cannot predict if that deity would take any further action. I do not know what happened in hell, and whether there are survivors. If they are all dead at least that would be a better fate than living among ruins with the thought of having been defeated by a single human. Yet demons pose the second threat against you. Hell's vengeance hangs heavily over humanity. One more infernal outpost remains, ruled by the last spider mastermind. It is here, in your universe, on a planet far away, remaining hidden and silent over the eons. It grew strong over the ages and now it has the power to decimate the earth and continue the plan that was given to it by Baphomet himself. You cannot do anything about it. You will never find it? Never. I may respect you and be nearing death, but I shall not tell you anything about it. I have never betrayed my own kind, and I will not do so now. Remember the lesson that I gave you. There is no absolute truth, there is not a single truthful point of view. There are many truths and many outlooks on the world. They are all different, just like yours and mine. Your purpose in your ridiculously short mortal life is to defend your own truth and find your own place, without being manipulated by the greater powers that were born together with existence itself. You are already watched. The recent disturbances have caught the deity's attention and their long sleep may be broken. Whatever comes, defend your own truth, and let your brethren defend theirs. Value life and freedom above all others. Everything else is just an illusion. The end. Chapter 28, Glossary. Gatekeeper's Chronicles. Glossary. Arachnotron, demon species / cybernetic construct. Using alien advanced genetic and hydraulic technology, the forces of hell were able to breed brains and mount them on sturdy metallic constructs, armed with plasma cannons. The brains were infused with the tormented spirits of slain Atlanteans. Warped by hell's chaotic power, they became fully loyal to Baphomet and joined his ranks as some of the most powerful warriors of hell. Archvile, demon species humans who had committed the most terrible of crimes and blasphemies, losing their souls to darkness while still alive. Warped by Baphomet's energies, they have been turned into demonic entities that possess tremendous arcane powers. Atlanteans, ancient human civilization that possess the power of magic and high technologies. Descendants of the last surviving disciples that have somehow found a way into the mortal realm. Baphomet, one of the old gods. Embodiment of chaos and innate rebellion against imposed order. Rumored to have secretly played a great role in the fall of the Elder Worlds. Stormed from the ranks of the deities to form a realm of his own hell. Creator of the Gatekeepers. Baron of Hell, Hell Knights that drunk the blood of gatekeepers. They underwent a metamorphosis that bestowed an insatiable lust for blood upon them, increased their strength and stamina, as well as their magical abilities, turning them into some of the most powerful commanders of hell. BFG 9000, an experimental weapon, mutual project of the military and the UAC. The weapon quickly accumulates a heavy load of energy and unleashes a massive discharge of plasma and antimatter that inflicts severe damage upon many targets at once. In its name abbreviation, the B stands for big, and the G stands for gun. There has been much speculation about the meaning of the F. Black Container, a powerful demonic artifact of unknown origins. It unleashes a powerful necromantic spell that raises dead humans as former humans, persistent undead warriors, possessing immense bloodlust and unholy strength. Cacodemon, demon species. Spawned by Baphomet manifestations of sadism and perversity. Originally bred to torture the hapless human souls in hell, yet proved to be powerful airborne warriors. Cacodemons are enormous levitating cyclop heads that belch explosive gases and are known for their chilling grins and unrelenting cruelty. Catacombs, an area of hell, resting place for most of the sinful souls. The Angel of Death, the former master of the netherworld, controlled the lower, sealed section of the catacombs, where he gathered an increasing army of ethereal wraiths before being killed by a mortal hero who descended into the lower catacombs, holding the Spear of Destiny. The lower catacombs are not accessible by any other means. Cyberdemon, one of the ancient demons that inhabited the Obsidian Canyons. Their origins are unknown, though it is theorized that they were once the guardians of the small world of Quake, one of the 5 original worlds. They were not able to survive on other worlds, for unknown reasons, before alien technology turned them into living machines that were finally able to offer their power to Baphomet's armies. Deities, old gods, immensely powerful extra-dimensional entities that were born with the beginning of existence and the formation of the universe. They were the first to create 5 worlds from the emptiness of the void, and ruled over their mortal creations that inhabited them through the elite sect known as the Disciples. Baphomet was one of the deities. Dimension of the Doomed, realm of earth magic, one of the 5 original worlds, a nexus point for humans' magic powers that were fundamentally different from the power of the old gods. That world was inhabited by a chosen group of magi, non-disciples, that studied and attuned the flows of arcane power. It is on that world that the Elder Runes were forged, within a place known as the House of Than. Dis, an enormous palace that stands on a height at the northeast end of Inferno, designed to be the headquarters of the commander of Inferno. For unknown reasons Baphomet always appointed lieutenants as ruler of the continent. Contains vast treasuries and vaults of precious artifacts. Disciples, elite sect of humans in the Elder World, chosen by the deities themselves. They were the embodiment of power over humanity, specially trained in magic and manipulation, and the mediators between the mortals and the old gods. Their end came with the great rebellion that overthrew their order and led to the fall of the original worlds. Elder Runes, ancient artifacts of unimaginable power, forged by the old gods. Each of those runes carried the very essence of a different type of magical power: human magic, black magic, evil force, netherworld magic, pure chaos, and elder magic, old gods' power. It is said that the one who possesses the 4 runes would be granted power, exceeding that of the old gods themselves. Elder World, one of the 5 original worlds. Home of humanity as it was first created by an unknown force or deity. Its center of power was the city of the Disciples, an enormous citadel that was built within a giant crater that was formed by a cataclysmic eruption of arcane energy. The EW was a warm but humid world, complete with forests and oceans that were known for their high variety of colors, waters that ranged from light yellow to dark purple. Former human, slain human, raised by the evil force unleashed by a black container. The power of the former humans is determined by their skills while they were alive, and ranges from simple weak raised humans to the vicious former commandos that had been skilled fighters while alive. Fortress of Mystery, an ethereal anomaly that has been shaped as a fortress that consists of one huge tower. It was there that soul spheres and demonic blue healing potions were created. The fortress is able to shift in and out of existence, ravel from place to place, and become invisible. It was used in the invasion and teleportation of Deimos. Gate, a stable rupture in the fabric of time and space that folds reality in a way that connects 2 entirely different locations. The gate's stability and persistence is supported by a sophisticated framework of energy channels and tachyon vectors. The true nature is shrouded in mystery, even for gatekeepers, though they confidently describe it as a singular rift, framed within the void and anchored into the physical world by an electromagnetic field. Gatekeeper, second in command demon, after Baphomet, in the hierarchy of hell. Created by the deity himself, they possess the power to shape reality according to their wishes and open dimensional gateways. Their powers in the field of magic were quite formidable, as well as their talent as field commanders. Great Rebellion, an unprecedented uprising of humanity against the Disciples and their old god masters, led to the downfall of the Elder Worlds and their established order. It is rumored that Baphomet played a clandestine role in the events surrounding the rebellion. Hell, a vast realm of pure chaos and a focal point of negative/evil powers. Dimensionally configured to siphon all human and non-human souls that carry evil within. Inhabited by an exceptionally hostile and xenophobic race, the demons and their undead servitors. Hell Keep, entrance point for the human souls into hell. Guards the entrance into Inferno. Contains armories and the halls of records, where all souls trapped in hell are listed. Hell Knight, one of the first demonic species, spawned from the hairs of Baphomet's beard that he spread over the realm. Hell Knights are excellent warriors, possessing a good balance of stamina, fighting prowess, brute strength, and warlock skills. They serve as Baphomet's personal elite guard. House of Pain, hellish facility built on the plains of Inferno. Its primary purpose was the production of food for demons by crushing human bodies and extracting their blood. Its high technology allowed it to emanate pure pain in the form of eerie vapors through its chimneys. Those vapors strengthen hell and its aura of suffering. Icon of Sin, a vast citadel in hell, the seat of power, home of Baphomet. Built by unknown technology and designs, it spreads Baphomet's dark influence over the whole realm. It is said that anyone who would enter its halls would be lost forever, as there is a potent spell of confusion that protects the whole area. Imp, demon species, one of the first creatures formed by the energies that Baphomet unleashed throughout hell. Imps are roughly the size of a human, brown in color, possessing many spikes, excellent sight, the ability to cast fireballs on their victims, primal warlock magical abilities, very underdeveloped, and burning hunger for the flesh and blood of mortals. Imps have many purposes in hell's hierarchy, from lowly menial workers and warriors to commanders of small groups of demonic troops. Inferno, one of hell's continents, part of a greater land mass, separated from its eastern part by the mountains of agony. The boundaries of the continent are heavily fortified and the gates of the Hell Keep are the only entrance. Significant structures such as the Pandemonium, the House of Pain, the Unholy Cathedral, and Dis are located within the continent. Lost Soul, demon species/undead manifestation. Despair and the loss of all meaning in life, turn humans into lost souls when their spirits are devoured by hell. Those manifestations of anguish and frustration appear as burning horned skulls that are able to levitate and propel themselves at high speeds when they attack. Hungry for the flesh and souls of the living, lost souls are deadly when encountered in packs. Ravenous and merciless, they are able to tear a victim into pieces within a minute. Monster Kondo, a huge demonic city on the other side of the mountains of agony. Contains the largest demonic library in hell, and therefore serves as a gathering point for demons attracted by the mystic arts. Mt. Erebus, the highest mount on the territory of Inferno, in hell. Built on its top is a stronghold that keeps the Hell Forge. Here many demonic artifacts were crafted, example, spirit armor. Netherworld, the original realm of the dead, gatherer of dead souls, one of the 5 original worlds. It is characterized by vast smoldering wastelands, seas of hot magma and chaotic fields of black crystals. Supposedly, the Netherworld was ruled by the Angel of Death, who was later found in Hell. The realm was still capable of attracting souls and projecting manifestations on the mortal plane even after being locked under the shield. O of Destruction, a name for the circular area of ruins of old buildings, which are located in the center of the circle-shaped starport of Earth. It was there that a Gatekeeper installed a machine that created a powerful force field, sealing the starport, and cutting off humanity's escape route. Original worlds, 5 worlds, the first to be ever created since the beginning of existence. Shaped by the old gods, there were 5 such worlds, and humanity was to inhabit the largest of them. Those realms were, Realm of Earth Magic, Dimension of the Doomed, Realm of Black Magic, Netherworld, Elder World, and Quake. The last was a small dark planet with mysterious purposes and properties. Pain Elemental, demon species/bioenergy anomaly. After consuming a specific number of pure human souls, a lost soul enters a state of metamorphosis, in which it is encased in a shell of scintillating energy. After a period of time that ranges from several hours to a few days, the lost soul is transformed into a pain elemental, a brown-colored, levitating cyclop head that possess underdeveloped limbs and the ability to spawn an unlimited number of lost souls, a clones of the original creature that formed the elemental. The mechanism of the spawning, as well as the creature's eating and life habits, are unknown. Pandemonium, an enormous fortress in Inferno. Base of warrior demons that assaulted and pillaged distant worlds. Contains the greatest armory of hell as well as chambers where the loot from eons of demonic plunder is stored. The fortress has served other purposes as well, but they have yet to be discovered. Quake, a small planet, one of the 5 original worlds. A seemingly undeveloped and dark world, it conceals a vast underground structure that, as it is theorized, was constructed by the deities for their meetings and control over the other 4 worlds. When the shield was raised, one of the old gods was left there to watch over the sealed worlds. Realm of Black Magic, one of the 5 original worlds, a focal world of evil, chaos, and darkness. The uncontrollable side of magic, black magic, was concentrated on that world by the old gods so that they would be able to keep watch over it. Secretly chosen humans were sent there and allowed to study black magic and build their own dark civilization. Ruled by a council of 5 chosen magi, they existed until a war among them that happened just prior to the Great Rebellion. Revenant, undead cybernetic hybrid. One of Hell's most sophisticated creations, this is a cybernetically modified human skeleton that has been brought to life by the spirit of a slain demon. An ethereal image of the undead host can be seen around the bones. It attacks its victims with heat-seeking missiles or with its bare fists that strike with surprising strength and accuracy. Spear of Destiny, an artifact of great, yet unknown power, brought from one of the original worlds. Used for the creation of a specific type of undead. It is also theorized that it could allow its wielder entry into the lower catacombs, inaccessible by any other means. A mortal hero entered that area, with the spear in hand, and confronted the angel of death who resided there. Spider Mastermind, demon species. Using the alien technology utilized for the creation of arachnotrons to build bigger and stronger hydraulic structures that carry hideous chain guns and enormous genetically modified brains. Those brains were infused with the spirits of the necromancers that were the most trusted advisors of the Gatekeeper that ruled over the assembled human tribes in Earth's distant past. The masterminds became Hell's most loyal and mighty generals that lead the demonic legions into battle. Temple of Darkness, the largest seat of Hell's power ever on Earth. Built by a gatekeeper who seized control over the local groups of primitive humans and ruled over them for centuries. The temple was used to store dark knowledge and many infernal artifacts, including void spheres. The shield, excessively powerful protective spell that was cast by the old gods around the elder worlds, severing them from time and space, and isolating them for an unlimited period of time. Everything sealed under the shield is locked in a stasis state and does not age. Tower of Babel, specially built on Deimos after it was teleported into Hell. The warlord of the cyberdemons used it to channel a potent ritual that opened gateways to Earth and enabled the demonic invasion upon it. Unholy Cathedral, an enormous temple on the northern hills of the continent of Inferno in Hell. Built to serve as a focal point for dark power, and resting place of the so-called Unholy Bible, a Baphomet's artifact of power. Union Aerospace Corporation, UAC, a powerful, unscrupulous conglomerate on Earth that claims an undisputed monopolist position with the discovery of a unique waste processing technology. It builds colonies on Mars and its moons, Phobos and Deimos, where secret experiments are performed. Void Sphere, powerful demonic artifact with enormous destructive potential. Creates a void of time and space causing a catastrophic implosive effect. Nothing can resist the power of a void sphere. Warlock, demon species that did not participate in the invasion. Primary users of demonic magic, they have the authority to set the rules of its usage in Hell and conduct research that leads to new discoveries in that field. Reclusive and mysterious, they seldom leave their temples and networks and crypts. Unconfirmed information describes warlocks as very tall, minotaur-like, blood-red colored demons. All other information about them is shrouded in obscurity. Warrens, a stronghold in hell, resting place of the souls of the insane. The chaotic powers of the maddened spirits warp the original structure into a close resemblance of the Hell Keep, yet much of the genuine building remains, hidden in the Warren's darkest corners. November 2004 May 2005